well as a former member of Parliament who is seated in the gallery, in the well. In the lower well, I am sure I'm seeing the Commissioner of Police and members of the police force. I see the Commissioner of Corrections and the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of National Security. Welcome all to today's sitting, and for those who are joining us via the various social media platforms, including PBCJ live stream, and everyone who got here so early in the gallery, welcome. I hope you enjoy today's sitting of the Parliament. Call of the roll.
Mr. Clark? Here. Mr. Bartlett? Mr. Holness? Dr. Chang? Mrs. Williams? Ms. Grange? Mr. Mackenzie? Mr. Chuck? Mr. Vaz? Dr. Tufton? Mrs. Malahoo Fort? Okay. Mr. Green? Mr. Charles Jr.? Mr. Matthew Samuda? Mr. Morgan, Robert Morgan? Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn? Mr. Main? Mr. Davis? Mr. Terrelong? Mr. Hutchinson? Mr. Witter? Dr. Dunn? Mr. Brown? Dr. Brown-Burke? Dr. Charles? Mr. Chin? Mr. Cousins? Ms. Crawford? Ms. Daly? Mrs. Dalrymple Philibert? Mrs. Davis? Mr. Golden? Mr. Graham? Dr. Guy? Ms. Hamilton? Ms. Hannah? Mr. Enriquez? Mr. Henry? Mr. Hilton? Mr. Jackson? Mr. Lawrence? Ms. Lee? Mr. Miller? Mr. Montague? Ms. Morrison? Mrs. Nita Garvey? Mr. Paulwell? Mr. Phillips? Dr. Phillips? Mr. Robertson? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Carl Samuda? Mr. Shaw? Mr. Sibley's? Mr. Slowly? Mr. Smith? Mrs. Vaz? Mr. Warmington? Dr. Wheatley? Mr. Williams? Mr. Wilson? And Mr. Wright. Thank you.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I would ask for you to proceed with the agenda until we get to notices of motions orally, given orally.
Thank you, House Leader. Statement by ministers. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, there are no statements by ministers today. I will ask you if you could proceed to item 4, through to item 9, notices, which I will at that point intervene. Thank you.
Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House are the following: Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements of the Electoral Commission of Jamaica for the financial year 2023-2024. Annual Report and Statement of Account of the Bank of Jamaica for the year ended December 31, 2024. Statement on Fiscal Performance of the Independent Fiscal Commission for the period April to December 2024. Annual Report of the Public Accounts Committee of the House of Representatives on its examination of the Ministries, Departments, Agencies during the period February 2022 to February 2025. And in relation to the Auditor General's Department Certified Appropriation Accounts, under the head 28,000 at the Ministry of Justice for the year 2019-2020, head 28,000C capital, Ministry of Justice for the year 2019-2020, under the head 20,011, Accountant General's Department for the year 2020-2021, and under head 42,035 at the Department of Government Chemists for the year 2022-2023. We also have the Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements of the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation for the financial year 2016-2017, Annual Report of the Private Security Regulation Authority for the financial year 2018-2019, and its Ministry Paper number 13 of 2025, entitled Annual Report of the Private Security Regulation Authority for the financial year 2018-2019, Annual Report and Audited Financial Statement of the Sports Development Foundation for the calendar year 2020, Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements of the Montego Bay Free Zone Company Limited for the financial year 2021-2022, Annual Report and Audited Financial Statement of the Professional Engineers Registration Board for the financial year 2022-2023, Annual Report of the Tourism Product Development Company for the financial year 2022-2023, and the Annual Report and Audited Financial Statement of the Culture, Health, Arts, Sports, and Education Fund for the financial year 2023-2024. Thank you.
Bills brought from the Senate. No. Petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next sitting of the House, I will move, be it resolved that this Honourable House of Representatives approve the plans and programs being pursued by the government in respect of ministries which were not included in the debate on the appropriation bill, and further approve the policy projections as announced for the financial year 2025-2026. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to the sitting of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House, first obtained, public business.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
The question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the Minister to take the motion, notice of which she gave earlier. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, it is our intention to commence the sectoral debate. The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security will be our first speaker, and he will be followed by the Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern. Madam Speaker, I ask that you invite the Minister of National Security to speak at this time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, House Leader. I now invite to his feet the Minister of National Security, Deputy Prime Minister, please turn your mic on.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's my privilege to begin the sectoral debate today, but today is an interesting day for national security. I'll make a brief comment as I open my presentation. It's a good day for us because today the police reports to me that we are 36.1% murder less than last year. That means, Madam Speaker, that there is 131 Jamaicans who are alive today because of the effort and success of the police force in dealing with dangerous criminals. I understand there are two things happening. I'm dressed in blue, not only because I support the police call and demonstrate it physically, and they deserve all the support they can do. They're working hard for us. I'm not being critical of the others who have other thoughts, but I think it would be appropriate that if there are some people, many of them I gather, a few there are, but there are some significant leaders of churches involved, would at least be giving some consideration to the 230 families of lost people, lost their family members to criminal actors. There's a particular sector of that group, Madam Speaker, that I must pause before I go to my presentation. Orphans. There's nothing and no organization in the society that tend to deal with the orphans created by criminals. It's a serious error. I have them in my constituency. I think of many. They are difficult to treat. I have cases I can recall. I just say the young man who was shot down in the presence of his 3 sons. I found the resource to send them to psychiatrists. Psychologists provide support for school, but the trauma was unbearable. 2 are dead by the gun and 1 in jail. I have another today who saw his mother killed at 5, his father killed at 5, his mother at 7. We have given him everything he needs: clothing, support for home, schools. We've sent him to private schools, but the support for him, state-wise and community-wise and NGO-wise, is non-existent. The fact is, the entire burden falls on some of us who know and understand. So I'd love to think that those who are currently prepared to look at the police and assault them in a way would think of these victims. These are the pain, these are the sufferers of crime. Those of us who care for them understand the trauma they go through. It's impossible to do it by what we do as members of Parliament. That literally involves almost full-time care. And it would have been, I surely appreciated that some of those who are preparing to wear black today would have found something to find these individuals. The police know them. Members of Parliament from either side know them. And we need to find a way to support these really humble, young victims of crime, the orphans of crime. There are too many of them, and they are the prime recruits for further crime. So, Madam Speaker, that is my comment on what's happening, and I want to thank all the Jamaicans who found it appropriate to wear blue today and signal their support. For the police, men and women who as professional law enforcement of the Jamaica Consular Force are daily seeking to protect Jamaicans and expose themselves to significant trauma. The criminals of today are not afraid to shoot at police officers. And in some cases, they shoot their family members. They have a tough job, but they're doing an excellent work. They have committed themselves. So, Madam Speaker, it is my privilege today to deliver the 8th sectorals presented as Minister of National Security. It is one I regard with humility and gratitude. And I think I share the distinction maybe among the longest serving. Your friend was the other. National security has been one of the most challenging portfolios over the last 3 decades. Careful, that I'm going too fast. 3 decades, is all right. Allow the time there. I'm not going to go that long. I'm going to focus on the issue. Just touch the bottom. National security has been one of the most challenging portfolios over the last 3 decades. To have retained the confidence of our leader and Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Dr. Andrew Michael Horace, to lead in this capacity since 2018 has been crucial to advancing the investment in transformation and a high point of my political career. I want to thank the Prime Minister for his confidence. Madam Speaker, the saying, "There is no I in team," appropriately captures my sentiment for the various teams that support my being here today and have given me the support over the years to not only survive and do well in this particular challenging portfolio. First, to my family, my wife and children, whose unconditional support propels me every day and has been the base on which I could stand to take on the challenge in this ministry. The members of the Cabinet, who I've had the privilege of working with for the last 8 years, I want to thank them for their support and their continued My colleague member, we continue to share the vision and work towards building a strong and prosperous Jamaica. My Minister of State, my friend Juliet Cuthbert Flynn from the constituency of West Central Central. That giant of a lady, full of energy, still strong and still fast and still capable, as she is the Olympian in the hopes. Energy and vitality she brings to the work of the ministry is unparalleled. The operational work, you agree? The operational work of national security is carried out by agencies comprising some of the finest law enforcement officers, administrators, investigators, and analysts anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. JCF, JDF, MOCA, PICA, IFSLM, DCS. I must recognize the heads of these agencies for their outstanding leadership and unwavering commitment to a safer and better Jamaica. The team in the Ministry of National Security, led by the Permanent Secretary, Ambassador Alistair Stoneroof, currently in the House, and the Chief Technical Directors, like Close Protection Detail, and administrative staff, all work tirelessly behind the scenes to support the mission of a safer, stronger Jamaica. I want to extend my thanks and appreciation. Madam Speaker, I'm truly blessed to have worked alongside a dedicated management team, councillors, party workers, some are here, and community leadership of Northwest St. James constituency. They have stood with me in difficult times and remained deeply committed to building our communities and improving the lives of all Jamaicans. But critically, Madam Speaker, I owe a profound debt of gratitude to the citizens of the constituency. Their friendship, their love, and their support have carried me through. They believed in me, walked with me, encouraged me, supported me, and most importantly, voted for me. We are a democracy. In doing so, they chose Jamaica, embracing the vision of our Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Horace, to build a resilient and prosperous nation. Madam Speaker, our hero Marcus Garvey gave us the roadmap. Sir Alexander Bustamante gave us the mandate. And Andrew Horace gave us the mission. One God, one aim, one destiny. Jamaica strong and prosperous. Madam Speaker, in his recent contribution to the budget debate, the Prime Minister provided a clear vision for Jamaica's next chapter. At the heart of this vision is public safety and public order. These, Madam Speaker, are the very foundations, Madam Speaker, of a dynamic and progressive society. Having led the Ministry of National Security for the past 7 years, I know firsthand the significant transformation that has taken place within our law enforcement agencies and the modernization of our laws and policies to make them more relevant and robust. That is why today I can stand here confidently and declare that our national security architecture is stronger than at any other time in our history.
Hear, hear.
Madam Speaker, our national security framework is strong, our personnel are highly trained, their operations are efficient. That is Jamaica's national security today. Strong, highly competent, efficient. While the Jamaica Constabulary Force remains our principal law enforcement agency, the other departments and agencies play critical roles in safeguarding our nation. These include the Jamaica Defence Force, always giving support, consistently giving support to the police force, but important in domain awareness, maritime and territorial. Interagency cooperation across government. The joint operations with the police in zones and other areas. Youth and community engagement through the JNSC and Cadet Corps and community activity. And of course, information operations to keep the public alert. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, our premier cybersecurity agency, recently received the President's Award from the International Association of Law Enforcement Intelligence Analysts, IALEIA. The Department of Correctional Service recently launched its year-long 50th anniversary, celebrating under the theme, Excellence in Securing Rehabilitation and Reintegrating Lives for a Safer Jamaica. Brigadier Raj Macy is here in the House today. Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine, which on the completion of the autopsy suite, which will be it is at this point on full completion, should be formally activated in another week or two, will be the finest legal medicine unit in the West, as good as any in the Western Hemisphere, and the finest in the Caribbean for sure. The Passport Immigration Citizenship Agency, critical in border control, have improved its reception at airport with the kiosk and e-gates, and we are moving towards adopting PNR, which is Passenger Name Record System, which will make it much easier to engage, but also increase the threat analysis and a move towards electronic travel approvals. We have a way to go with it. It's costly, but it will be there very soon. We have already acquired our contract with CETA, having there the capacity to accept the data, but we need more to ensure we can apply it. The Firearms Licensing Authority, of course, the Private Security Regulation Authority, the Police Civilian Oversight Authority, all agencies of the Ministry of National Security, which completes the architecture of the national security system. Together, these entities form an integrated security apparatus, working collectively to ensure the safety and well-being of all Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, I'd like to dedicate, however, this sectoral presentation to the men and women who serve within the various agencies of our national security apparatus. They work tirelessly and selflessly to protect our people, our communities, our homes, our borders, and our business. They have served the nation with distinction, often at the risk of their own lives.
Yes.
But, Madam Speaker, this year I will focus on the work of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the efforts we have invested in them over the last few years. The police are the gateway to our criminal justice system. As first responders to crime and disorder, they stand on the front line of justice.
Yes.
They uphold the law, they protect lives, and safeguard rights. Their presence brings order. Yes. Their actions build trust.
Yes.
The police are not just law enforcers who move among us, they are the fundamental pillar of the nation state. Madam Speaker, for more than 2 decades, maybe 3, crime and violence have been the primary concern of the Jamaican people.
Yes.
This has damaged public confidence, hindered investment, and disrupted the lives of our citizens. Right? But today, I can say with confidence, we are at what the management experts say are a tipping point in our country's journey to a safer and more resilient and prosperous society. We are beginning to see the results of our policies and investments in national security, and in particular in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The tide has shifted. Our police officers, with the support of the government, under the leadership of this Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Andrew Horace, remains resolute in efforts to secure Jamaica and Jamaicans. I want to briefly remind us where we are coming from before I go to what we are today. When the Andrew Horace-led administration took office in 2016, we inherited not only a security apparatus in disarray, a Jamaica Constabulary force that was severely under-resourced, a JCF, Jamaica Constabulary force that was severely under-resourced and in dire need of change and transformation. Yes. Decades of underinvestment had left the force struggling to effectively combat crime and maintain law and order, yet they were battered by public commentaries, status. The level of crime and violence had surpassed the capacity that the JCF had given. Quite frankly, the force was so ill-equipped to address the evolving nature of criminality, the situation was alarming, and the rate of homicide was indeed overwhelming. Morale among the rank and file was low, and the state of force reflected years of neglect and underinvestment. To be more specific, Madam Speaker, a quick look at the office in 2016 reflected dilapidated physical infrastructure. Majority of police stations were really unfit for occupation. They were not closed by the public health authorities only because they were police. In a normal civilized society, all those buildings have been declared unfit for occupation. Manpower deficit. Prior to the integration of the auxiliaries in the JCF in 2014, by the then administration, the strength of the regular force was below 10,000, which meant there were more than 4,000 below their establishment level. But this merger was not an expansion of the number of law enforcement personnel, Madam Speaker, because the auxiliary force, as we call it, Island Special Constabulary Force, were already operating within the security system. Indeed, their expansion and recruitment over the years was more an attempt to expand the force on the cheap. They were merged into the force, and it still only took them to just over 10,000, which was still way below the accepted or what was the required establishment for the force in order to begin to address in any meaningful way the challenges posed by the criminal elements in our society. Amidst all of that shortage, the mobility of the fleet was an embarrassment to every Jamaican and every police officer. They were old, run down, and of all varieties of make and model that you could find in Jamaica. Some were gifts, some were borrowed, some were whatever they were. Indeed, Madam Speaker, I have to refer to a very recent incident. I was in my constituency on Sunday evening in Norwood, and a gentleman who is a taxi driver, he lived in the community, and he was, after I was finished speaking, he said to me, I want to thank you for one thing, MP. You know, not only can I walk in the night snow, but when the police used to come up here, I used to hear the police from way down the bottom, not them siren, you pang, pang, ping, pang, pang, because this big was falling apart, come up the hill. That's what I could hear. So, everybody knew police vehicle was coming. That was Chinese language. The vehicle was beginning to talk Chinese. But that was a reflection of not only what the police really was, but what was in the force and the nature of the resources they had. And even the public, humble people of the community could understand and appreciate the change, but recall what there was. Telecommunication and connectivity is critical, absolutely essential for modern police to operate. Officers in the field, what they had was totally unreliable and inadequate. Officers in the field often found themselves unable to relay critical information or receive communication. They are therefore compromising operational effectiveness, officer safety, and the ability to respond to to citizens' calls. The technology was not existent. All operations were manual. I think, and the screen may see holding the big book, which was a symbol of the police, a book that was started way back in the 19th century and continues to be today. That was a symbol of policing. We are moving them. We are introducing digital transformation. The force, in fact, is moving aggressively to introduce the kind of technology that is required. Indeed, we think that in a very short order, they'll not only have, you will go to a station, as there's one in Harborview, one in Hopewell, but there are 51 stations currently outfitted with the equipment, the communication, and the station record management systems so they can report. It's important to note, Mr. Speaker, so when you go into a station now, you'll see a young officer, a bright young Jamaican, a new uniform, sitting at a desk with a computer console. Yes. Ultimately, that officer will be able to not only record your complaint, but if there's an issue of breach of the law somewhere and someone is reported, they can find a license number, they can find ID, the record, the criminal record, all that is related to that individual, whether positive or negative, across the system. And whether they're in Negril or in Portmore, they will be able to get the same data at the same time. It will be real-time connectivity. We are almost there. That is a symbol of the transformation. And I would pause and commend the effort of the police force. Not only it started on the change started under Major General Anthony Anderson, former member of the Jamaica Defense Force with a 42-year service in security. But it's been taken to a new level by our present Commissioner, Kevin Blake, who has both the ability, leadership skill, and the qualification to head any corporate operation in Jamaica. Today, he heads the Jamaica Police Force. The cumulative effect of these deficiencies, Madam Speaker, are poor working conditions, lack of equipment, stagnant career progression, Madam Speaker, which is often dependent on unknown factors, and constant public criticism left the morale of our police force at an all-time low. And the challenge of increasing criminals, the sophistication of criminals who had high-powered weapons, an increasing amount of resources, money to throw it, I would say, was in fact damaging the morale of our police force and rendering them almost very limited in dealing with this new challenge. That was the grim state of our law enforcement apparatus, Madam Speaker. Our approach to addressing social disorder and criminal violence has always been guided by a well-calibrated strategic response. The Prime Minister made national security a priority. Right? Managing our economy and getting on top of the criminal situation is the #1 priority of the government of Andrew Michael Horace. Our approach, a strategic framework based on a holistic policy requiring strong enforcement measures, without any apology, in parallel with building and developing the police force while introducing effective social transformation. Hear, hear. Madam Speaker, a lot of talk about what we have done in social transformation. We published this today. I bring an entire booklet, and it will outline at an annually we have spent over $1 billion in social transformation, albeit a significant amount focused in the zones of special operations, which I'll comment on later. But we have learned how to effectively intervene in these communities, and will ensure that it is scaled up in the third term, in fact, cover all of Jamaica. But we have been deliberating using the state of public emergency, but they are not used indiscriminately. And I'd begin there because there has been much controversy about the use of state of public emergency. They are deployed strategically in exceptional circumstances. They are designed to reduce criminal violence. Questions have been raised about their effectiveness, and I'll demonstrate, not by just talk, but by the studies done by professionals to demonstrate clearly how the state of public emergency set the stage for improved public order and reducing crime. While there has been much debate about the use, the evidence of the effectiveness is undeniable. The first graph should be on the screen, showing the Jamaican situation, that after the state of the public emergency, there was a significant decline, and it was maintained. To use the term by the academics, the treated areas was quite different from the untreated areas. Their studies have proved the capacity of SOEs to rapidly reduce killings, suppress violent crime, and restore a sense of order in communities under siege of violence. A recent empirical study conducted by econometric and public policy scholars at the Florida International University, and in collaboration with other young Jamaican professionals across the U.S., employed a range of causal models to assess the effectiveness of the states of public emergency in Jamaica over both short and long term. The results were compelling. On average, across each police division, there was a 62% reduction in violent crimes following the implementation of the SOE compared to the same period prior to in the same divisions. 62% reduction. This decline was primarily driven by a reduction in murders, 56%, shootings, 58%, aggravated assault, 18%, robberies, 41%. Another diagram will appear below this to demonstrate that in clear empirical terms, not just the talk of those of us who support it philosophically, but in clear empirical. The red line shows what was happening before, the 90 days prior to introduction, and the blue line, 90 days post the introduction. One diagram has all violent crimes, and one is just focused on murder. In these types of evaluation, Madam Speaker, that provide us with reliable and robust causal evidence that Jamaica's use of SOEs has had a significant and measurable impact on violent crime levels as a deterrence across the years they have been used. Madam Speaker, Jamaica is not alone in recognizing the necessity for such measures. Over the last 2 years, several Latin American and Caribbean countries, including Trinidad and Tobago, Belize, Ecuador, let's go back, Honduras, and Peru have implemented states of public emergencies to swiftly curb spiraling homicide rates, save lives, and improve public order. According to a report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, no fewer than 30 state of public emergencies have been declared across the Latin American Caribbean region between April 2020 and April 2023. But let me be clear, Madam Speaker, we have never suggested the state of public emergencies as a silver bullet for a crime problem. They are but one set of tools in a broader, multi-pronged strategy designed to restore law and order. That is why we have persisted in implementing a comprehensive policy for national security. This includes the expansion and the development of the police force. Madam Speaker, the expansion of the force was crucial. There are many people, including allegedly educated individuals and leaders, asking for things like proximity policing. But we didn't have enough police to even do routine work. And they were calling on the police, and when it didn't happen, they didn't have the community patrols, the policemen were accused of all kinds of wrongs. Madam Speaker, we set about to correct that in the force, and I know the force has set about to correct the issues in the community. Sustainable crime reduction policies and the coordinated work of all the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies. We are combining immediate enhanced measures with strategic investment in law enforcement and social investment programs. Again, I refer you to the booklet we have published today. My speech will be in is on the QR that will be set out a bit later, but I thought it would be wise to publish this because the continuing dialogue and misinformation by many is out there. And there's much more that could go in that booklet. And as my Minister of State says, who has been very active on the field, she has been to graduation for psychiatric aids in various communities, to schools across the island with Live Good program and all that we see in that booklet. She has played a critical role as she manages that section, as she oversees that section of the ministry on my behalf. Every step we take is part of a deliberate, well-considered plan, not knee-jerk, always purposeful, and focused on achieving clear, measurable goals. We have made unprecedented investment designed to increase the capacity and strength of the entities of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. These investments have been broad-based and systematic, addressing both operational effectiveness and the well-being of our police officers. I repeat that, Madam Speaker. The investments have been broad-based, systematic, addressing both operational effectiveness and the well-being of our police officers. Since 2016, we have invested annually an average of over $9 billion in national security capital expenditure. Capital, as defined in our budget now, is capital, Madam Speaker. This is 3 times the average annual investment under the PNP regime of 2011 to 2016, And 21 times, Madam Speaker, the annual investment by the PNP regime of 18 years. If you look on that diagram and that chart on the wall, Madam Speaker, and look at the green against the orange, it would be fair to say that those who were in charge of security in the years up to 2007 had no interest in the safety of Jamaicans. Absolutely no interest in public order and public safety, and the people were being murdered by the thousands at that time. A lot of talk, but look at that chart, Madam Speaker, that reflects the interests of those who were governing at that time, the first 18 years of a PNP administration. You can see the difference. Next 4 years, despite our quick short intervention, investment went up. Subsequently, we can see from 2016 a direct and decided and constant investment to ensure that the country had a police force that could respond to the level of criminality in the country. Our commitment in transforming and modernizing the JSCF, Madam Speaker, is reflected in all the, not only in the years of expenditure, but focus on a number of critical elements that would give us a strong police force. Our sustained Yes. Oh, we get it over. It's right here. Areas of special note, Madam Speaker, members, and I have the team and the minister that focus on this. Our sustained investment in human resources and training. In recruitment, our recruitment has enabled us to expand the resource capacity of the police force, bring it up to the approved establishment level of just over 14,000. Plus or minus a 90 from time to time. For the first time, the country has a trained establishment of law enforcement officers, police force. Madam Speaker, the members, recruitment continued even during COVID. We leased Camp Burley in St. Catherine, acquired Tranquility Bay, and rehabilitated Harman Barracks, while improving the facility at Twickenham Park, which is now seen as one of the finest police training facilities, meeting international standards. But the fact is, during COVID, despite of the crunch on the economy, we were able to lease Tranquility Bay, where we used it as a holding space until we could move in the training camp. We took on Camp Burley as well, and we have been able to train and graduate near 6,000 police officers since 2016. What this means, Madam Speaker, members on both sides, it allowed for more efficient deployment. So we could do what you talk about, proximity policing. At the same time, we have still maintained our special operations team. Not only the special operations team that is national, but every division now have an operations support team. We have structured patrols, from community patrols to special patrols in hotspots. Those are specialized units that could only come when we have adequate number of men and women in the force to carry out this kind of activity. And we assess on an ongoing basis, and we'll have discussion. The Commissioner will speak to me, and we'll discuss with the Ministry of Finance how to ensure we can optimize the effectiveness of this human resource, and if necessary, to gradually take it to another level. In addition, Madam Speaker, we have introduced comprehensive leadership and supervisory development programs to ensure that officers at every level are equipped to lead effectively in today's complex policing environment. I don't think anybody can question that. No. As some of my friends will say on the road, you know, when I hear a policeman talk after an accident now, I feel good about the police. Yeah. Simple reflection of the training being led by the current commissioner started when he was made Deputy Commissioner in charge of logistics in the police force, and a team around him that is committed to building high-quality professionals in the police force. We have expanded and modernized the police training curriculum, equipping officers with advanced investigative techniques, intelligent analysis capabilities, specialized operational skills, and importantly, how to interact with the law-abiding citizens at all times. And the question of technology, Madam Speaker, the police have made the integration of advanced technology into their operation a top priority. Some of these initiatives include equipping police stations with electronic station records and case management system to digitize the front office operations. And we are going to make the front office look better and fix it to look, not only have the computers, but to be welcome to members of the public. In fact, we redesigned it and renamed it. We call them reception areas, not guard rooms, because we're not guarding everybody who come in there. And it is built with more space, has sanitary facility, that the individual going to report a case can feel comfortable, and if they have to be interviewed, there's a private interview in every new police station for that purpose. Wonderful. To date, 51 stations are live with these systems. Hopefully, is a nice example on Harbour View. Small ones, but the big ones are in place as well. Readily come to mind, digitization of CRO is proceeding, not yet complete, and as management systems come in place, so we can manage all these things that we are putting in place. We have to ensure from motor vehicles to station don't run down before you replace them. We have a structured management system which will be integrated in the electronic system that you can do it, and the permanent secretary can stay at the office, check what's happening, why is this car still on the road, why is the station not repaired, so can the commissioner, and so too will be the minister able to do it. So we can manage the assets. We have invested heavily. We are getting results, but we must maintain it. Yes. A new fleet management system will be fleet management system across the island to enable real-time tracking, not only managing the system in terms of maintenance and repair, but we can track our vehicles. My good friend ACP Leonard Brown, I call him the Q of the police force for Jamaica, for those who remember the James Bond movies, but he is an assistant commissioner of police under Deputy Commissioner Karina Powell-Hood, and reporting, of course, to the commissioner to ensure we manage our assets effectively and well. Currently, over 1,400 vehicles are being tracked through the system. So we can say where they are, where they should be, and we can call them, and the commissioner can, in fact, interact directly. Equipping police officers with electronic handheld devices and a wireless printer to facilitate the quick and efficient issuing of traffic tickets has significantly impacted road traffic accidents. There's more to be done, and other sections of the criminal justice system that need to get settled to ensure that the electronic system can, digital system can operate smoothly across the board. The Minister of Transport is moving aggressively to get the law and the IT up to date. Commend him. The Minister of Justice, a little bit slow off the ground, but because they have realized just in this kind of, they were still wearing the grey wheel helmets, but wigs, but they have taken it off, and they are moving quite systematically now to bring some level of efficiency and digitization to the court system. These tools have not only increased operational efficiency and enabled faster decision-making, and that's critical in crime matters today, that a commissioner or a superintendent can make a decision quickly, but not just arm to hip, but can take a rational decision to respond where, when, and how in real time. So that improves the quality of service delivered to a public. Madam Speaker, the process continues in earnest. The big books are being replaced by electronic system, and legacy records are being converted to digital files. And on that note, Madam Speaker, I cannot show you, but it will be remarkable to see the team of police officers on Harbour Street in particular, and I think Superintendent Henderson, my red CP, that manages the transference of data from these big books into the electronic system. Because you have to do that. This is a tedious part of digitization. Cannot go too fast. You have to get it accurate. Some of those old books, 13, 20-year-old, from 2013, 2015, have to have the data must be transferred correctly because they may still be called upon for evidence in the court of law. And there's a team of young police officers, including lawyers and officers, who are there under the supervision of a police officer doing the transformation and doing it accurately and well. So it's going well. Our commissioner, Fortet, is not only someone who is an excellent leader and a good police officer, but he has training in that field. So as he has the qualification to lead any CO there. He's a mathematical computer trained individual. But as part of this modernization, of course, the connectivity and communication. A major milestone is our modernization effort has been the upgrade and expansion of P25 digital radio communication system. Yep. The police once had the most reliable communication system, the most resilient system, but it fell apart. We have upgraded and substantially increased communication coverage across the island, providing secure, reliable, real-time connectivity for law enforcement personnel across Jamaica. These enhanced communication capabilities have significantly improved emergency responsiveness, tactical deployments, and coordination among units, particularly during heavy operations. Madam Speaker, the National CCTV Surveillance Network, Jamaica Eye, has grown into a critical national security asset, enhancing our ability to monitor public space, deter criminal activity, and support investigative work. The community I went to recently with a member from the eastern side of the island, they call it the Eagle Eye, and have demanded of me to ensure that I get the Eagle Eye up this year. I've given her commitment. We are buying some, we have ordered cameras, and it gives the community a sense of assurance. Even if they don't, the police has to be there to do the job. But by knowing that we have a 360 view all the time, citizens feel more secure. Yeah. To date, over 1,200 cameras have been successfully integrated in the network, and we have already ordered the 2,500 to complete an island-wide network. Madam Speaker, we have established for the first time a modern fleet of police vehicles equipped with up-to-date technology. I have to say for the first time, Madam Speaker, while the previous jail administration did something in 2009, it was a single attempt then, but we are doing it on a systematic basis. We are setting up a fleet management system, and we intend that the police will ensure, by their own call, that we maintain a fleet of vehicles. The target is to have 1,600 vehicles operational at all times. But it's not just any vehicle, it's a police vehicle, a purpose-built vehicle, with its cameras, sirens, computer console, all that is required to come. This is a walking police operational unit that the police can communicate and keep in touch with all the headquarters at all times and to maintain them in good order. And you see a police vehicle, you know it's a police vehicle. And when it's coming, hope we don't have any accident. They have had some, but you're not going to hear ping pong coming up the hill. They're coming. They're good vehicles. The expanded fleet has translated into faster response times, increased patrol coverage, and enhanced visibility of law enforcement personnel in the communities. These are critical factors in deterring crime and reassuring our communities. Presence deter criminals. Madam Speaker, for a professional to work efficiently and well in a high-stress and demanding environment, they need proper working conditions. Yes. They need clean working conditions. Yep. They need workplace where rain not fall, they might forget up when rain fall and move them paper somewhere else. Or they have to get a pan put under some desk to protect it from being soaked. We therefore proceeded to rehabilitate and rebuild the police facilities across the island. It was done under a well-planned, organized program, Project Rebuild, Overhaul and Construct initiative, following an engineering assessment of all the stations. We sent an engineer to look at them and grade them 1, 2, 3. 1 was in reasonable shape, we could repair it. 2 need major repair, and 3 we had to demolish and rebuild, and we have done so. The transformative program is aimed at creating a more professional, functional, and dignified work environment for our officers, while simultaneously enhancing the physical spaces where citizens engage with the officers. Every professional of a building, lawyer of his chambers, doctor of the clinic, police must have a station, not just in the building painted blue and white. Every police facility across the island has been positively impacted under the initiative, either through upgrades, refurbishment, or complete reconstruction. And we are currently, in fact, in further upgrade to ensure that all our front office will accept the technical equipment, the computers, etc., in good order. That when you go in there, it's not overheating because you know your conditioning, there's too much dust, and the computers get damaged quickly. We are conscious of the need to maintain the standards of the police force and where the young professionals work. And indeed, it's crucial because we have recruited 6,000 young police officers. They are the children of the digital age. They are used to computers, they are used to smartphones. They're not into the big book. And they don't write with double-line book again, just before their time. They are onto computers and screens and touch screens and that kind of thing, and even to AI. They talk into these things. So we have to ensure they have the proper tools to fight the criminals who themselves are trying to be more smart, but the police is smarter. We have opened 16 fully rehabilitated police stations across the island. The most recently, Lacovia and Froome. These state-of-the-art facilities are not only modern in design, and I want to emphasize, Madam Speaker, but environmentally resilient, meaning they feature solar power, saving on cost and maintenance, water storage systems, built-in communication redundancies. The standards are testament to the evolving standards of our policing infrastructure, and we are not done yet. 3 more police stations are currently under construction are slated to be opened in the coming weeks. Stony Hill, Little London, and Anchovy.
Look at Stony Hill.
The member's time for speaking has expired. House Leader. Mike, please, House Leader.
Speaker, the member's time for speaking having been expired, we ask the House to grant the member sufficient time to complete his presentation. Madam Speaker, having his time expired for his presentation, we ask that you give the Speaker an additional 20 minutes to complete his presentation.
Members, the question is that the Speaker be given no more than 45 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you. I guess 45. All right. Very good time. Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In tandem with the improvements of physical infrastructure, we have implemented merit-based promotional pathways to reward excellence and enhance our career development in the force. I want to repeat that, Madam Speaker. In tandem with the improvements to physical infrastructure, we have implemented merit-based promotional pathways to reward excellence, enhance career development within the force. So officers will go on training programs. When requested, have been assessed by the commanding officers. They go through from corporal, from constable to corporal, corporal to sergeant, sergeant to inspector, and inspector to deputy superintendent. All have specialized courses to ensure that they can accept supervisory and command role as they proceed smoothly into the career. Since 2024, 1,375 police officers, including 80 gazetted ranks, have been promoted to fill critical vacancies. This will ensure improved supervision, effective policy to increase the officer corps. As indicated in one of my earlier sectoral presentation, this is the first time in the history of the force that the officer corps is going to be moving toward, not even near there, toward the recommended ratio for efficient policing, that is 3 to 4% of the total strength of the police force. That's the object, and it's being done professionally by a commissioner who understands policing and is operating as a true commissioner. These strategic actions are not only designed to boost morale and professionalism within the force, but ensure officers feel valued, motivated, and supported as they carry out their vital duty in service to the people of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, this holistic and strategic development of the Jamaica Constabulary Force is part of a well-planned, long-term national security agenda.
Yes.
Not knee-jerk reaction.
Not knee-jerk at all.
Make a Don a star and find a star policeman to shoot him and say you have a plan. That was neither a plan. It's a part of our history we'll put behind us. It never worked, and it had nothing in there to make it work. That was what was called on by many a plan. You make some Don man, some criminal, a criminal, a star boy, and then you get a star boy police to go shoot him. And we have something done for crime and security. Foolishness. We could not even consider adopting that. Today we have a well-planned, long-term national development program for our security forces. By investing in our law enforcement professionals, leveraging cutting-edge technology, and maintaining a balanced approach between crime control and crime prevention, we have set a strong foundation for sustained crime reduction and public safety.
Hear, hear.
Madam Speaker, in all what we do, leadership is paramount.
Yes.
Indeed, it sets the tone. It determines the outcome. When the transformation of the JCF required firm political will, this administration, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Dr. Andrew Horace, rose to the occasion. Not only with the requisite resources and patience, but with the clarity of vision, constancy of purpose, and unwavering resolve to ensure we have a stronger society. At a time when many had lost confidence in the JCF and questioned whether their true transformation was even possible, when some believed that simply changing the name from force to service would suffice, this administration, this minister held steadfast to a new transformation vision. We believed then, as we believe now, that we did not need to look beyond our shores for a savior. Our faith was and remains in our own people. We believe in their competence, their intellectual capacity. We knew they were Jamaicans with experience, commitment, and leadership to implement the transformation of the vital national institution. We chose Jamaicans. We chose Jamaica. Madam Speaker, the Jamaica Constabulary Force is emerging as a distinctly Jamaican institution, guided by capable and committed local leadership. At its helm are Jamaicans of integrity and vision, directing and inspiring of the brightest young talents our nation has to offer. And Madam Speaker, it's a pleasure. I invite you one day to attend the graduation ceremony at Twickenham Park, when we see some of our finest young Jamaicans who have joined the Jamaica Constabulary Force. They operate with precision, yes, but we can sense in their curriculum, these are some bright youngsters we have coming into the force. Some with degrees, but our Teachers College, University, UTech, but we have the head boys from Titchfield, from Clarendon College, 8, 9 subjects. This was not heard of in earlier times. When you go there, that's what we have in the parade ground at graduation. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be there with them and to see their energy, their commitment, and their willingness to say they are committed to transforming not only the police force, but to bring peace and public safety to Jamaicans. They are accompanied by their families across Jamaica, and they come there and leave there still energetic and willing to take on the challenges, and have been doing so successfully. The transformation, initially guided by the leadership of our former Commissioner, Major General Anthony Anderson, was appointed in 2018. He came with 40 years of experience in security. His tenure laid a foundation for ongoing growth and institutional reform. Today, under the leadership of Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake, who emerged as a natural successor, we see a motivated and energized workforce. Madam Speaker, the transformation agenda has not only continued, but has progressed seamlessly, following one of the smoothest leadership transitions in the force's recent history. The force that is taking shape today is a data-driven, intelligence-led, and grounded in scientific, evidence-based approaches to modern policing. Nowhere is there more evident than in our strategic approach to combat gangs and dismantle criminal networks. Leader, Commissioner Kevin Blake, under the leadership of Commissioner Kevin Blake, the JCF has embraced advanced analytical methods to enhance policing strategies. Notably, the force has integrated mathematical models in these operations. Indeed, should be noted, we don't give our own people credit now, Madam Speaker. We tend to always look at them differently and look for some other character from abroad and have a different background. But it was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jonathan Farley, a professor at Vanderbilt University, who shares Caribbean roots, but his parents were academics in the US, Harvard lineage, who is now a specialist in using mathematical models to analyze and disrupt terrorist cells and gang cells, advising at the highest level of government, and still an advisor to automatic skills. He uses what is called the lattice theory and all, but lattice theory in particular, mathematical models, to identify, using the evidence and information they have, intelligence, to identify the critical players in a gang or a terrorist cell and to remove them. Track them down, have them, remove them, because that, taking out those 3 or 4 key players, disrupt the gangs. Which is why today we have less than 100 gangs operating in Jamaica, because they brought that kind of analysis. And this is why I've said in here before, we're not on this, that we copy some intelligence-led operate for somebody. This is a systematic approach by the commissioner who has trained persons around him, who operates at the highest level and is recognized globally for his work. I think if I could find this, Professor Farley will have to say, you may not think the Jamaican police were the brightest person, but you will have to meet Corporal Kevin Blake then, who was doing his work for his PhD and indicating, and before he was doing his PhD, but was applying his mathematical skills to how we can disrupt gang and successfully do it in that way. His seminal application of the lattice theory and the theory of ordered sets, originally to address terrorist cells, that's Professor Farley, are now being applied to the analysis and disruption of criminal gangs operating in Jamaica. Let me repeat that for the benefit of it. It won't take much time. Professor Farley's seminal applications of lattice theory and the theory of ordered sets, originally to address terrorist cells, dynamics, are now being applied to the analysis and disruption of criminal gangs operating in Jamaica. The work of the current commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, has been crucial in bringing this kind of work to Jamaica and is respected internationally and globally as one of the individuals who bring that kind of work to the job. These models provide critical insights into the structure, behavior, and vulnerabilities of the organized crime networks, which have been terrorizing our community for many years. We can assure the public we will identify the key players, we're going to apprehend them one way or the other, and we're going to break up these gangs and restore public order in Jamaica. We'll find them. When you do it this way, they cannot hide. We are a big island, but we are small. We'll find them all. Madam Speaker, this is innovation. This is deep thinking, data-driven policing. Yeah. The matter of fact, Madam Speaker, our very own Commissioner Kevin Blake has gained international recognition for this work in this area of mathematical modeling for targeted crime fighting. That's what I mean by focused, targeted operation in the police force, Madam Speaker. Not the old style, Starboy shoot-up business. Okay, Carol. This empirical approach is producing the desired results through deliberate conflict monitoring, and therefore it does not include extrajudicial killing, Madam Speaker. In that part of the culture of the force today, in that part of our genetics, this government have no interest in that kind of activity. Nor does this police force or this police commissioner, in fact, I wish to point out. It is about meticulous evidence gathering, the preparation of robust case files, and better position to secure successful prosecution, deliver justice. That is our objective, and I will repeat, don't shoot at the police. If you shoot at the police, don't expect the police to take a shot before returning fire. And I don't expect the police to miss. The minister is saying so, Ms. Nita Edley. Cannot afford to have the policemen. They are Jamaicans, bright young Jamaicans. They don't want nothing to hurt the family or themselves, and we have invested a lot in them. But as I hear my friend, I will say, okay, was to say, you know, the pastor at the last funeral I went to, and I don't go to funerals of that sort very often, but she was very keen to say, a good pastor, you know, Minister, you can't kill nobody, you know. You are just a messenger of the Lord, and this year they went called plenty of them, and the police is the instrument, and the police, as an instrument of the Lord, he must be efficient, sure what he's doing. So just do your job, police officer. Since the start of 2025, Madam Speaker, where Commissioner has been able to apply his work, he has had to engage his officers. They have gone through their orientation and training. Some 63 gangs have been impacted through investigation operation efforts. 63. At one stage in this country, we had over 200 gangs operating. Down below 200. But in this period of quarter, we have seen 63 gangs being interrupted. They have not been all totally disrupted, but we are aware that they have been disrupted, they have been impacted by police investigation. 159 gang members have been arrested. 159 gang members in this quarter. Some 34 members have been charged with applicable offences, which include murder, firearm breach, and lotto scamming. 15 gang members have been charged under anti-gang legislation. Overall, 10 gang-related cases have been before the courts with 90 accused involved, currently before the courts. In fact, the Chief Justice is asking for a special court. And I've talked to my colleague here, Minister of Justice, that he needs to begin to look at it seriously because we're bringing more and more gang cases and they demand a lot of space and time. And the courts require to have that space.
We're looking at
plus, it does provide a risk in the court when you have hardened gunmen coming into an open space. It's difficult to manage. And in societies with high number of gangs, gang courts are designed and built to deal with the gangsters. We don't expect to have them forever. We'll disrupt them, dismantle them, lock them up, and when they're finished, we'll go to court for regular activity. During the first quarter of 2025, a total of 85 gangs were identified as active across all the 19 police divisions, which is way below the 350 which was there before. This represents a significant reduction when compared to over 120 last year, and before that, many more, reflecting a decrease of some 29% or 35 gangs in this particular period. This downward trend is a clear indication that our strategy is gaining traction and delivering results in dismantling criminal networks and disrupting their operations. It's the power of focused, intelligence-driven policing. We are taking fight to the gangs, and we are winning. Yes. We know they are changing their own strategy. Scammers are doing things now using Bitcoin. They're going cyber. But our police officers are of the digital age. They, too, are going cyber. And in their teams, they work together with MOCA, JDF, and all the others. But the police force itself has the capacity and the willingness to take on new challenges and to train the officers to deal with this. As a result of their focused deterrence activity and the modeling they're doing, for the first time since structured data capture and disaggregation began in JSF, we are recording several historic achievements. My friends, several historic achievements. We have the lowest weekly murder count in 24 years within the 6 murders during Christmas. 24 years. Wow. We have the lowest murder count in 25 years. Wow. 48 murders in February. And we are about to repeat that in April, yes. Madam Speaker. Today, with 2 days to go, we are 42. Right? So, we're looking at 2 successive months below 50. Wow. It reflects a level of sustainability that was not envisaged even now, because we have the result of police officers doing their work and the other aides of government collaborating. And I would say some of our international partners have been cooperating, especially in the areas of advance free. Now, scamming affects both us and our partners in North America. And it's the most corrosive and insidious activity. It brings in the money that finances the gangs locally, but it brings in the guns. It serves as a means of acquiring, brokering drug deals that the scammer can buy and transship. It involves trade finance, money laundering, and it undermines elements of the legal society. The court system seeks to undermine all aspects of Jamaican legal society. In ministries, courts, policing. It's a corrosive and serious activity, but we are going at them hard. The police is moving aggressively to apprehend them, along supported by all the aides of government, and we get excellent support from our partners who are affected because their citizens from which the money are stolen and brought to the country. Lowest quarterly murder total in 25 years. Yeah. In the last quarter, Q1, we have had 187 murders only. Wow. If we continue along those lines, we'll have under 600 murders for the year. We didn't set that target. Thank you, member. We didn't set that as a target at all. But I've always said to the Commissioner, when you take out a certain number of the hardcore criminals, you inspire fear in others, you change operation, you get reduction, and it could become quite quickly. They will respond, you know. But I'll come to another point which shows they are fighting back, but we are there. The police is prepared. The most consecutive weeks with murder below 15. Most consecutive weeks with murder below 15 in 25 years. 11 weeks in Q1 of 2025. Wow. And a slight break 1 week, but it goes all the way back to September of 2024 if you look at it carefully. For 3 weeks. the lowest quarterly major crimes in 25 years, 898 cases in Q1 2025. So we are seeing enough indication that we are on a sustainable path because it's the full quarter, not 1 month, not a flash in the pan, not a one hit. We are seeing a steady decline in all areas. At the close of 2024, murder fell by 18.4%, building on a 7.3% decline in 2023, and now we are heading towards a 36% decline. Madam Speaker, we are not just reducing crime, we are changing the trajectory. Jamaica is firmly on the path to long-term, sustainable crime reduction, and its people look towards a time of peace and good order. The first quarter of 2025, the country recorded 187 murders. Third straight quarter of decline since Q2 of 2024, the second quarter of that. The chart up there shows that very clearly. It's a result of the continued investment and confidence in our police force that has resulted in this. Major crimes, even more compelling. Major crimes have now fallen for 6 consecutive quarters, starting from Q3 of 2023. Major crimes. That is, rape, robbery, and break-ins have under consistent reduction for 2023. That's when we had begun to see impact of our investment in terms of mobility, better stations, and communication. When we examine the monthly murder count since July 2024, we will see that you can take a look at the chart to get that. When we examine the monthly count since July 2024, the trend line, the green line, you can look at the next chart coming up. I hope my team can put that up. Dashed line confirmed the general steady decline in murders, not at one. You'll also, there's, so far this year, January 1 to April 27, there have been 227 murders. This represents, today, 132 fewer lives lost, or 37% reduction compared to their corresponding period in 2024. Major crimes are down by 19%. We are indeed going toward a time of good public safety. And my friend again said to me, no, and this is real. I was at a meeting there on Wednesday evening. MP, I want to thank you for one thing. I can once again walk my community any time of the day. Go out at night, come in any time. People who work 24/7 in the hotel industry until the midnight shift, and the people, they come home. They used to have to, I had to go sleep with a friend. I rent a room somewhere downtown because they couldn't come home at night. They are coming home now. One of your supervisors, Mr. Jackson, a key supervisor for you, said to me, I want to thank you, Dr. Chang. You know, tell me, I don't ask you what you're going to vote for me, but in your supervisor. He said, I had to wait up all night till 2 o'clock to hear my daughter there because she had come from her work out of Freeport and she can't come now. She come home now. I see my daughter every day. Right? If the current downward trend in murders continue, we will have a reduction. If the current downward trend in murders continue as projected in the purple dashed line, we are very much on track to record a few under 800 murders in 2025. This is the projection. I said the projection, if we continue where we are, will be way under 800. But let's be, I won't push too hard, but the police, being conservative, say look toward 800. The figure 800, Madam Speaker, is important. The members the same because it's the view of the experts who are both in the force, outside the force, and the academics that based on the fact that much of the murders in Jamaica are based on reprisal and using contract killings, when you get below 800, you'll be able to have a sustainable reduction and take it even lower down. When you're above 800, the reprisal rate is so high, even with a strong police force, we have a challenge maintaining a murder rate below the level we want. This would represent not only a historic low, but a victory for law-abiding citizens. The diagram is up on the screen now, and you can repeat and see what they say. But you can see the trend as opposed to the projection. I say to the public, as I conclude, well, the screen is gone. Sorry. No. The blue line was the high last year. The green was our projection, and the dotted line is the trend. So it's going down. The middle line was the target we have set ourselves. The police force has set in consultation after they made their own prediction and they informed me accordingly. But the target, the line is much below that, and we expect it to stay that way. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say to the public, do not watch the headlines. Pay attention to these trends. Yes. In today's world, access to information through social media is faster than ever. Our headlines are often sensational, focusing on the negative while giving little attention to the positive. In some cases, they may even spread misinformation. That is why it is important to look beyond the noise. In some cases, they may even spread misinformation. That is why it is important to look beyond the noise and focus on the actual data and the long-term trends. Yes. Data-driven intelligence operation, Madam Speaker. Our relentless focus on the gangs and their weapon of choice, the gun, is paying dividends. Between January 1 and April 26, not only did we disrupt a lot of gangs, a total of 356 firearms were seized, marking a 21% increase over the same period in 2024. In addition, 9,605 rounds of ammunition have been recovered so far this year, a 130% increase compared to 2024. Of note, Madam Speaker, since November 2022, when the Firearm Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act came into effect, and we had unison on that one, thank you, there has been a steady increase in the recovery of firearms. I show the graph to you, Madam Speaker, because sometimes the excitement of having people convicted for life is not heard as frequent as we think it should be, now that the Firearms Act in place and they're being tried. But the court system goes this way, and we're not going to criticize them for that. Justice may be slow, but it has to be sure. But there are strong signals, Madam Speaker. The tide has turned. If you look at the graph online, you'll see that since November, it really started November 2022 when the Act was passed. But from 2022 until now, there's a steady increase in the number of firearms. And while I cannot give the detailed reports, I can see from the reports I receive from the police, there are many coming with the reports are targeted search, which means somebody gave them information to go to point X and you find a firearm, even when they don't get a chance to arrest anybody. That data could be disaggregated by the police. I don't have that, and I didn't think it was necessary. But what I want to show is that, that's going again. This graph shows that the impact of the legislation, oftentimes we complain about the strong legislation, started immediately, almost. 2022, 2023 it went up, 2024 it went up, and 2025 is going up significantly in the number of firearms. I should say, in part of that too, is that we have increased the level of collaboration and cooperation with all agencies, just part of the object of our security plan. The Commissioner of Customs now sits on the National Security Council and work collaboratively with the Commissioner of Police, especially in border control and apprehending weapons and ammunition at the ports. Where are we going, Madam Speaker? We're not stopping here. We're still on the road of progress. We have to complete it in a third term. It was a difficult task we inherited, a mess we inherited, and we need the time to complete it. So did my preacher say it too. Yes, we do. The process of reform and modernization will continue. We are building a Jamaica conservative force that is institutionally resilient, ready to meet the future, and that future is emerging. But resilience to the fact that as an institution, Madam Speaker, they will not allow them to be subject to any manipulation by anyone. It will be defined not only by more modern infrastructure, but by iconic and aesthetically pleasing facilities. Yes. These include the proposed plaza will still be earmarked for downtown Kingston. At first, I think some are a bit skeptical of you and move the police there, but it's part of an entire operation to restore the quality of life and the city of downtown Kingston, a capital city. So I can say this evening to the police officers who are listening, we'll be moving before them, because the Prime Minister has given instruction that the Ministry of National Security must be immediately started by the UDC and the Hero Circle, Government Circle proposal. So I have to move forward, right? And we'll be the first ministry to go there as a new ministry, because Government Circle depends on the economy from the rental we now pay to provide the capital for development. And we have already earmarked that, so we'll not be far from the police headquarters. But that police plaza designed by a famous Jamaican architect has already won international recognition. Its announcements has led to a significant level of acquisition of property downtown. And it will not be a speculative move. They will get their capital gains because we are in fact going to develop downtown. The other aspects of downtown in infrastructure, my colleague to my right, we have to speak of them, but they have to get basic infrastructure downtown in good order. But the police will be part of that development. In addition to that, the Westmoreland Development Headquarters at Landale is well underway. Yes. That's a photograph, groundbreaking on the current building. It's to set the standards. It is setting a new standard for police station in Westmoreland where the development headquarters will go. A fantastic building. It will provide the quality service from acquisition of just to serve the public there. It's criminal records, etc. You go there, digitally you get your thing within a short time. The St. Catherine North Division is well underway in Spanish Town. A new structure. That's the architect's impression. But we are building working police stations for our officers. Right? Technology gives us the problem here. I will advise the Parliament to seek the support of the police, technology department. It will deal with all technology. I'm confident that if Commissioner sends ACP Brown down here, you'll have this working properly without intersection. And if I have to go to the ministry, my peers will not hesitate to give the guidance to my commissioner to assist Parliament. The proposed Special Operation West in Montego Hills, staffed by a new generation of finest professional law enforcement officers, they are in procurement, they are well underway, and it will provide a base, not just a base for police officers, but Madam Speaker, we currently spend a horrendous amount on rental to keep the officers in Montego Bay. Montego Bay rental is high, even if you get a little tight back room. Everything in Montego Bay is measured in US dollars because it's a tourist destination. We can't afford to keep it. We are going to build a fine operational west. It's in a good location, and they can have, in addition to proper residence for the professionals who will operate from there, they'll have additional technology equipment because on a hilltop overlook all of Montego Bay. We're going to ensure that our police in the west, not only who is achieving outstanding records now, will continue to maintain peace and good order. I think Era 1, including Westmoreland, St. James, Hanover and Trelawney, which at one time both St. James and Westmoreland among the top 5 divisions for homicides are now among the lowest in the island. Officers deployed here by Commissioner ACP Miller and his team are doing excellent work and deserve the commendation of the entire region and us from the west. In addition, 6 police stations are slated for reconstruction and are currently advancing through the pre-investment phase. These stations are K Valley in St. Anne, Amity Hall and Granville in St. James, Amity Hall and Granville in St. James, Bull Bay, St. Andrew, Savamar in Westmoreland. It is the current police station we retained as a kind of city police center. Mocha in Clarendon, and of course, we should open the Anchovy station very soon. Equally important is the institutionalization of maintenance systems. So we are not just building new facilities. We're ensuring everything we build or procure is maintained and becomes sustainable. Finally, Madam Speaker, in our way forward, the C5 Center currently being rolled out will be a game changer. That is the cybersecurity, communication, computer, and center. This advanced command and control hub will integrate our technology system to provide real-time information and intelligence to our officers. That means quicker responses, more targeted intense operation, and better outcomes in fighting crimes and maintaining order. It will also give us data as we can relate to the other ministries as we work in the communities, because community policing is now rising as we reduce murders. CSSB department is now seen. Schools are asking for police officers now, not just because they are violent, but they want the police to ensure they maintain the order in there. And we work with the students in exposing them to opportunities and a better quality of life. We divert them to other areas working in the Ministry of Justice and their diversion program. Mobility will continue to be a critical force multiplier. That is why, rather than relying solely on capital budgets, we have made recurring allocations. And this is important to know, Madam Speaker. The old system was to wait until the cars and broke down. I'm going to use the term deliberate. Them broke down, they can't move.
Yes.
Them crowd up police here, and the police have nothing. You get a capital vote to buy a few vehicles, ease the pressure and give the impression that we're doing something for the police. What we have done, the police vehicle is an essential part of police operation. It's not a capital expense. A building is capital. You build, maintain, and it stays there. A police vehicle will have a lifetime. So we have to put it in the recurrent budget because it's an essential part of the process. And that's the important change we have realized.
Strategic planning.
So recurring allocation are made to a modern operational vehicle fleet. More motorcycles are being added to expand our quick response capabilities across the force. Crucial. Although I saw 240 accidents reported this morning of our officers and motorbike commissioner, we expressed our concern, but I know that it was not by, unfortunately, a risk that our officers take in our operations. Cabinet has approved, Madam Speaker, the Ministry's strategic master plan to expand Jamaica Eye. Surveillance network. These cameras will have all the qualities required. They have taken time to study where they should be located, but they cannot be allowed to invade in the body's privacy. And they also have to have a location where they will catch what we want to catch. They'll have license recognition capacity. They'll have facial recognition capacity. And therefore, you can place them at strategic locations that not only monitor what is happening, but you will find the vehicles that are rolling around. And when we find them, and a policeman on the highway will not stop any vehicle. And they have arguments because I'm busy and I have to go on and stop me. They will stop the cars that they have on their database that they want. And they also be prepared so you don't have any accident of man shooting police. Because I know a car coming is a car that have a threat risk. The officer will prepare to receive them. If they choose to shoot, that's not my problem at that point. I know the police can take care of them.
And that's your problem at all.
Not your problem at all.
No. Oh, you see. Hey, you're disrupting busy, man. But I have to emphasize this kind of activity, Madam Speaker, because I have to remind us, inform the public where we're heading, what we're doing, and what to expect. We're at the end of it now. The 2,500 cameras will bring us to 6,000 devices, enabling a complete shift to digital ticketing. And in addition to the cameras, of course, we have in fact now brought the supporting force for our ticketing system. 1,000 rugged handheld ticketing devices and 1,500 mobile printers will bring us to 6,000, therefore shift the ticketing and Minister of Justice to an entire smarter system, more consistent with traffic enforcement. So you have to bring the court system up in the Minister of Justice if you want to get this thing done on time. We are expanding our forensic capabilities. We have developed the forensic capabilities. Soon to be opened, the state-of-the-art forensic pathology autopsy suite, which will complete the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine, and certainly one of the best of anywhere, which will ensure intelligence and evidence gathering through science and technology on the forensic side, critical part of modern policing work. And especially in a country where we still have a challenge getting first-person affidavit as witness. Forensic science and technology is crucial to ensuring conviction. A key part of the transformation is the development of the National Police College of Jamaica into a true center of excellence. In 2024, the NPCJ achieved accreditation from the International Association of Directors of Law Enforcement Standards and Training, IADLEST, placing it among an elite group of global law enforcement training institutions. Additional accomplishments include program accreditation by the University Council of Jamaica, accredited training programs, status through NCVET of the hard training, new partnerships with local and international universities to broaden educational opportunities for officers. We'll continue to invest in the human capital of the JCF. Simultaneously, we are expanding the ISO 9000 quality management system to Jamaica Council to stations across the island. We are creating a professional culture, one that respects the dignity and rights of every Jamaican. Madam Speaker, in the training program, we are seeking to create and are creating a professional force with a culture that respects dignity and rights of every Jamaican. It's a new Jamaica Police Force. We're embedding quality service delivery into the police training to ensure respectful and professional interaction with the public at all times. We have redesigned police stations to be more welcoming, featuring reception areas instead of guard rooms, private interview rooms so domestic calls can be interviewed separately. All this is part of the evolution of a strong force for good, shaped by the sound policy of the government, backed by the government financing of critical programs, guided by the visionary leadership within the force and the Ministry of National Security. Hear, hear. Madam Speaker, our murder statistics are showing encouraging signs. Youth aged 15 to 24 account for only 10% of the murder victims so far this year, down from 17%. Maybe coming from not only the interaction of the zones of special operation, but they are, since the police focused target operation, Madam Speaker, I hear coming out of some of the toughest areas that nobody wants to be done again. Everybody's having second thoughts about assuming leadership of gangs. Part, of course, the zone of special operation, they made a police impact, but there's also the fact that we are spending over $2.13 billion in programs run by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund in the zones of special operations, which is seeking to effect social transformation. Hear, hear. And all agencies of government are asked to take part in what we do, are brought into work in these areas. This figure is doubled when you add the cost of the security forces. We intend to scale this up to address all the vulnerable communities, but it is costly. The cost we cannot afford not to pay, Madam Speaker. Building communities through social interventions was published by the ministry earlier this year, and I have brought copies here to show some of the work, because this is the kind of police that don't draw excitement. When people are being murdered, that's more interest to the public. But we have to, there'll be a shift, and the government is already pursuing this kind of activity, and we work with partners, private and public and international, to in fact expand social intervention. In 2024, Norwood and Augustown recorded 0 murders. Mount Salem 1, Savannah and Parade Gardens recorded 2 each, a reflection of the success of the zones of special operation. And I want to move it to the next, on the graph, which shows the impact of the zones of special operation, which has been criticized from time to time. Again, critical data analytics to show that impact is there. The dotted line is where the communities that were not treated are, and Denham Town and Mount Salem is in the solid line below. And Denham Town is one which has been posing significant problems. We have not got the progress we wanted, but it shows there's still significant improvement in the community as you look at that graph. Lives were not only saved, but transformed under the zones of special operation. We have other diagrams showing, and I will not exceed. Interministerial School Support Program, active in 37 schools. We will work with the ministry to expand that. The Live Good Program, anti-violence campaign, has been maintained active presence in schools across the island in zones of special operation. The legislative agenda depends on responsive policy. Much of what we aim to achieve in the communities across Jamaica depends on a responsive policy and a robust legislative framework. Institutionalization and sustainability of our intervention can only be realized through the passage and enforcement of appropriate laws. The Zones of Special Operation Law Reform, the Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development Act is one of the key pieces of legislation we have passed in this year. But of course, we did complete the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, which started in the previous administration. We have amended the Trafficking Persons Act, the Process of Crime Act, and of course introduced the Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Legislation Act. We have reviewed the anti-gang legislation, and we have made amendments to the Correction Act, and we are tabling the policy today in the House. Madam Speaker, very soon we will table the Immigration Restriction Commonwealth Citizens Act and Aliens Act in order to ensure better border control. And in the process, not only are we chaos, but we are acquiring an integrated border management system. It will cost us a pretty penny, and it will take us a little while to fully establish, but pretty soon. In concluding, Madam Speaker, This government is deeply committed to public order and public safety. We care about the lives of all Jamaicans. As a result, we made a commitment to the Jamaican people and invested significantly in our national security.
Yes, we did.
$9 billion is not change, Madam Speaker. Nope. That's the kind of money we put in national security annually. Capital, beside recurrent, which I won't go into, which is maybe triple that. We have transformed our police force into a modern, highly professional law enforcement team, one rooted in Jamaican culture and grounded in respect for the dignity and rights of our people. Yeah. You'll find incident. It's 14,000 Jamaicans. What I can assure the public, if an incident happened that you're not happy with, and you think the police officer operated excessively, call your superintendent or the commissioner's office. They are willing to hear and listen. The leadership of the force is committed to a professional force that treats its citizens with respect. It will be the exception when you meet that, but the exception made in you. But what I want to assure the public, if you meet it and you call your superintendent or your assistant commissioner or the commissioner, they make themselves available, they will deal with it within the force. It's an ongoing process to transform, but today we are already seeing remarkable results. Historically low crime figures, reduced carnage on the roadways, record firearm seizures, and most importantly, the restoration of opportunity and hope for those in our most vulnerable communities. To all Jamaicans listening to my voice here and abroad, Madam Speaker, I know many are tired of seeing and hearing about crime, but I want you to know this government is working for you. So choose the government that cares, the government that listens, the government that delivers, the government that invests where it matters. In the third term, with peace, prosperity, and good order, the people of Jamaica will realize, I'm speaking as a member of the government, the country will understand what it means where we are going, and they are going to follow. I will build a road for safety and public order, which is the road on which you can get development and progress. The people of Jamaica will realize their dreams and their aspiration in that. We say, choose Jamaica, choose progress, choose peace, choose Dr. Andrew Michael Williams. May God bless your country. Time, eh? Yeah. Thank you. My brother, colleague, a long time, you know. Action team. Remember that? You remember that one? Krista.
House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security for his fantastic presentation.
Marshall.
And we really want to applaud him. And now, Madam Speaker, I ask you to invite the Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern to make his presentation.
Thank you, House Leader. Members, please make welcome to his feet the Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern.
Madam Speaker, I ask for permission to speak from a seat other than my own.
Permission granted.
Madam Speaker, I will touch on a couple portfolio functions this evening. Amongst them is the matter of Portmore, certain colleagues, even a member over there. Leader of the opposition, my family, and that great army of residents and supporters of South St. Catherine that have sustained me after many attempts and many efforts, even by some of my constituents, who is not grateful for the support and good representation that she gets. But, Madam Speaker, I say thanks to my constituency team, the Mayor of Portmore, my right hand in the south in my constituency, Millie Diedrich, and my 4 councillors. They have really kept me and enabled me to carry out my duties as Member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the time has come for Jamaica to champion transformative change. For too long, our people have endured the dual scourges of violent crime and systemic corruption. Twin barriers to real progress that demand urgent, principled leadership. The People's National Party stands ready to deliver this change. A future where security is rooted in justice, opportunity, and accountability. Madam Speaker, the recent 30% reduction in murders in 2024 is a welcome shift after 8 years of escalating violence under the GLP administration. However, this decline follows a grim reality. Under this GLP administration, regrettably, more Jamaicans have been murdered than under any previous 2-term administration. Had the government maintained and strengthened the PNP's pre-2016 strategies, it inherited, less people would have been murdered. Indeed, that would have accelerated the downward trajectory begun under the People's National Party. This decline, while encouraging, is fragile. Jamaica's homicide rate remains among the highest globally, compounded by unchecked financial crimes and mass shootings. The JLP's reliance on state of emergency as a blunt instrument that eroded community trust and damaged livelihoods. That has proved disastrous. Their approach mirrored net fishing, indiscriminately sweeping up innocent young men and children while failing to dismantle criminal networks. There is a better way, Madam Speaker. The PNP has long championed a balanced approach to security, one that pairs enforcement with prevention. The new Commissioner, Dr. Blake's recent endorsement of focused deterrence, targeting the 1% responsible for 70% of violence, validates our stance. This spearfishing strategy, combining intelligence-led operations with community engagement, has driven the 2024 decline. Madam Speaker, the opposition had been pleading for this approach for well over 8 years, and it fell on deaf ears because the Prime Minister, the de facto Minister of Security, and supported by the former Commissioner of Police, maintained an exclusive, tough-headed, aggressive pursuit of looking tough, exclusive military approach that have only served to plunge the country into a state of deepened insecurity. So, we commend the President Commissioner Dr. Blake for his leadership and the new approach he has brought to the JCF, one which the minister made mention of today. His approach aligns with our 2023 proposals, which is court-supervised detention of high-risk suspects, expanding the Jamaica eye surveillance network, and yes, we welcome those increases the minister spoke of today, and balancing enforcement with social intervention. Mr. Speaker, this model respects constitutional rights while delivering results. Mr. Speaker, the global data supports this approach as the most effective in achieving sustainable security for our country. In this regard, I give this Parliament and my fellow Jamaicans the solemn undertaking that the next PNP government will commit the necessary resources to the JCF and its allied entities to ensure continued and widened success in sustained crime reduction and citizens' security. And here, we emphasize citizen security. I won't cross the bad words today, I assure you. It's not just about reducing crime rates.
Members, will you allow the member to make his presentation? Member, you can turn your mics on.
May I? And Mr. Speaker, I emphasize citizen security. And here, it's not just about reducing crime rates, but also about improving the quality of life and creating conditions where people can feel safe and thrive. I share an exchange, Mr. Speaker, I had some years ago with former Commissioner of Police Trevor McMillan on the occasion of the opening of the police post in Greater Portmore. On the sidelines, we had a chat, and he shared with me from a book he read from a retired New York police officer. And the officer wrote that a community's real security is not how many murders are being committed, but how safe the people in the community feel. If there are few people being murdered and the people feel very insecure, there is a security problem. If there is a lot of murders and the community feels safe, there is a murder problem. Vice versa holds true. In Jamaica, in our Jamaica, we have both. We have a security problem and we have a high murder problem. Mr. Speaker, the next People's National Party administration will pursue achieving both continued and accelerated murder reductions and increased security of our people. In their homes, on the streets, and in their communities. Nothing less can ever be deemed a success. In recent times, we hear that this JLP administration's seeming sudden pivot, where they now profess support for social programs. This rings hollow. And there is indeed a synergy between hollow and ring. The PNP and the country have a very reasonable basis for skepticism. This is the same JLP government that, upon taking office in 2016, discontinued or defunded every flagship social intervention initiative inherited from the PNP. Did you Unite for Change initiative, the Citizen Security and Justice Program, the Peace Management Initiative. The government of Prime Minister Horace spent years dismissing such programs as ineffective. Now, with elections looming, the JLP seemed to adopt the PNP's proven model of combining targeting policing with social investment. While we welcome this pivot, let's be clear, this is not leadership. It is opportunism. And worse, they are poor copycats. Them take Jamaican people for fool. Madam Speaker, no party or government should ever insult the intelligence and wisdom of our people and be allowed to get away with it. We are reminded of the words of the great Peter Tosh. You can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. That fooling time done, people's time come now. A background to where we are, Mr. Speaker. In 2017, there was almost 1,700 murders committed. Wow. So when we talk about reduction, that's where we're coming from. We must talk where we're coming from. It's like a merchant who having a sale, right? Jack up the price and then offer you a 50% discount after you feel it's a good deal to get it. You know, it's a some fight con game. Critically, the 2024 decline began only after the PNP's steadfast refusal to extend states of emergency and our successful court challenges against their misuse. The JLP's militarization of policing is akin to net fishing. That approach is the JLP's DNA. Jamaicans can never forget the Coral Gardens rounding up of Rastas and banning of books by writers committed to improving the lives of our people. We will never forget. Based on the irrefutable data we now have, the excessive overuse of SOEs has failed to save lives during the period as we were made to believe. But another major casualty of the SOE's overuse is the loss of its shock and awe effect necessary during periods of real emergencies. Mr. Speaker, let us be clear. Sustainable change requires more than election year theatrics and gimmicks. It demands unwavering commitment to programs that address the root causes, a commitment the PNP has upheld and which the JLP has never championed. In all of this, Mr. Speaker, the JCF is a very important institution. No one is denying that Jamaica's crime problem, but we demand accountability and public safety to go hand in hand. The JCF, while striving to serve and protect, must respect the rule of law. In order for us to begin to address crime seriously, citizens and the state need to work hand in hand. This cannot be achieved if there is a low level of trust between citizens and the JCF. What we need is a fully competent, motivated, and resourced team. The next PNP government will accelerate the use of body-worn cameras by members of the JCF. Body-worn cameras protect both civilians and officers. If we can justify their use in low-risk situations abroad, we must demand them here, where the risks are life and death. Body-worn cameras are essential to show whether the force used was justified, as well as to protect both lives and truth. The inconsistencies revealed through body-worn camera footage in countless instances underscore how vital these tools are, not only for ensuring accountability, but also for protecting the integrity of the justice system. Justice cannot be reduced to hollow rhetoric. It demands concrete, unwavering action. We assure, Mr. Speaker, every Jamaican that any practice of the police that seeks to undermine respect and all that we expect in a free and democratic society will not go unattended. After all, it is the trust and collaboration between the security authorities, inclusive of MOCA and the JDF and others, that is imperative and indispensable in achieving a sustainable, safe, and secure Jamaica. I mentioned earlier the need for a motivated membership of the JCF and others. We note the welcomed increase in the enlistment in the complement of the JCF recently. It has been a long road to get to that level of enlistment. We are also aware that while enlistment has been a challenge, retention was perhaps a greater challenge. In this regard, the next People's National Party administration will prioritize dealing with those issues that will further encourage police officers to remain in the organization. Mr. Speaker, growing up as a child, I recall very well how competitive it was to become a police officer. Being a profession of choice, we must endeavor to once again let being a police officer a career of choice. Mr. Speaker, it is for these reasons that I assure all rank and file members and officers of the JCF that the incoming government of the People's National Party will have your back in your chosen career of service to your country, our country. Jamaica needs the best that you can all offer to be a safe, secure, and harmonious country for all. Mr. Speaker, in the recently concluded budget debate, our finance spokesperson and leader of the opposition set out very clearly some of the strategies and programs that the next government we form will be pursuing. Central among them is growing the economy, both in terms of opening new areas of economic activities and expanding existing ones. The increased and sustained safe and secure Jamaica I discussed earlier is but one critical element of our development agenda, not just socially, but also economically. However, these efforts are significantly made more difficult, if not impossible, if corruption or irrefutable and strong perception of corruption remains high. Security cannot flourish without integrity. The Prime Minister himself once declared corruption is a significant retardant to growth. And in preparing for this presentation, Madam Speaker, I refreshed myself on some of the comments that the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, I refreshed myself on some of the comments the Prime Minister made during the debate in the passage of the Integrity Commission Act. And I quote, "There is no denying that whilst we have made significant strides as a politically independent country, we could have achieved much more were it not for corruption in many forms. Revenue leakage due to corrupt practices, misuse of public funds, and the overall perception of pervasive corruption, all of which have served to compromise the flow of investment in our country." And he went further, and I quote, "While we all need to take individual responsibility for our actions and endeavor to be agents of change as we do our part in securing a better Jamaica, the role of the legislature is paramount. And lastly, I quote from the Prime Minister. Despite the fall on the corruption index, business and consumer confidence is at an all-time high. It's back then, 2017. Nonetheless, we are acutely aware that corruption has direct links to organized crime, terrorism, and money laundering. This is therefore a serious threat to stability and security. Our national security policy emphasizes the link between crime and corruption. It identifies it as a clear and present danger to our country. Those were from the Prime Minister in the debate of the passage of the Integrity Act. How ironic, then, that this administration now sabotages the very institutions designed to combat corruption. Under the GLP, net foreign direct investment has plummeted from $926.5 million in 2015 to $373.5 million in 2023, a whopping 59.3% reduction in 8 years. A direct consequence of revenue leaks, graft, and investment distrust. The Integrity Commission, once praised by the Prime Minister as a beacon of accountability, is now under assault by various members of the Cabinet and others on the government side. These blatant conflicting signals and actions cannot give confidence to investors, foreign or local, whether micro, small, medium, or large. This glaring evidence of hypocrisy deepens dishonesty and distrust, which are potent ingredients in undermining all sincere efforts at building a secure and just society. The JLP government all-out assault on accountability betrays every Jamaican who deserves honest governance and to have a government that they trust. Mr. Speaker, we have a holistic vision of security, justice, and opportunity. The PNP's plan is clear. 1, targeted security. Expand focused deterrence, empower the JCF with advanced tools, and legislate pre-charge detention protocols to disrupt organized crime. 2, prevention and social transformation. Invest in youth programs, trauma counseling, and job training. Revive initiatives like Unite for Change and the Peace Management Initiative to break cycles of violence. I'm not cursing anybody today. Number 3, anti-corruption vigilance. Strengthen the Integrity Commission, enact unexplained wealth orders, and mandate body-worn cameras and other mechanisms to restore public trust. 4, data-driven governance. Allocate resources based on evidence, not political expediency. Track financial crimes and audit public spending rigorously. In concluding on this subject, Mr. Speaker, the JLP's legacy is one of stagnation and self-interest. But Jamaica's resilience is undimmed. The PNP's vision of a nation secure, just, and free from corruption is within our reach. Mr. Speaker, let us champion this change together. Let us build a Jamaica where safety is not bought at the cost of liberty, where prosperity is not stolen by the corrupt. But let us put Jamaica first, so every citizen can say, with pride. Choose Jamaica. Jamaica nice. Choose a corrupt-free Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to the other subject of Portmore. Mr. Speaker, Portmore is a community with its people at the center. Much has been said about Portmore over the last 18 months or so, and particularly over the last 5 months. Portmore as a community has been around for well over 60 years. Most persons who have been away from Portmore for anywhere close to 20 years. Upon their return, they are amazed at what has taken place over the period. With all the transformation that we can see, much more is to be done in continuing the efforts to make Portmore a better place in fulfilling Jamaica's 2030 vision. Jamaica, the place of choice to work, live, raise families, and do business. And of course, to enjoy more and better sunshine than any other part of Jamaica. Should clap for that. Yes, we have the best sunshine in Jamaica at Portmore. Mr. Speaker, the people of Portmore find themselves there for many different reasons. Being there, they have decided to do their part to make it the best it can be with the resources that become available as we go along and go forward. In the process, they have mobilized their collective wisdom to improve the space they are and the governance arrangements that they have inherited. In much the same way, Mr. Speaker, that our forefathers were uprooted from Africa against their will, the governance arrangement and structure that they have fashioned is being dismantled by this JLP government by a partisan and self-serving bait and trick ploy that they will be much better off if they are no longer part of St. Catherine, but a parish of their own. What cheap tricks and insult being inflicted on the residents of Portmore. In other words, the JLP government is saying to Portmore residents, your future development can only happen if your municipality becomes a parish. If this insulting argument should hold any merit, then many other growing communities across Jamaica, such as Maypen, Linstead, Negril, Santa Cruz, and the list can go on and on, should become parishes. Because you need parish to be developed. Oh, that logic flow. As the government dishonestly argues that the reason for making Portmore a parish is for its development, the questions being asked for which no credible answers are forthcoming. They ask the question, Mr. Speaker, will becoming a parish cause the roads to be fixed and maintained? Will becoming a parish cause more reliable water supplies? Will becoming a parish cause the communities to be more secure than they are now? Will becoming a parish cause the sewage treatment plant in Greater Portmore to be maintained? And the perpetual stench from the ponds end? Will becoming a parish cause us not to have any or less mosquitoes? Will becoming a parish cause less traffic congestion all over Portmore? And the million-dollar question being asked is, if becoming a parish will... I want to be treated equally. Oh, 20 minutes.
I'm following the directive of the Speaker. I should state a specific time.
20 minutes.
You're asking for 20 minutes?
Yes, if get 45 extra. You get 45 extra.
15. 15. Mr. Speaker, I ask that the member be given an additional 15 minutes to complete his presentation.
Yeah, 50 minutes, I agree. 50 here. 5-0. 5-0 here.
Question is that the member be allowed an additional 15 minutes to complete his presentation. Those in favor? The ayes have it.
50 minutes.
To finish. And Madam Speaker, the million-dollar question being asked is, if becoming a parish will solve all these problems, why are all the many places across Jamaica that are already in parishes for decades still having many more pressing problems than those in Portmore? As Damien would say, what can go so? But alas, the real intent was revealed most boastfully by no other than the former senior member of the Prime Minister's cabinet, the member from Southwest St. Catherine, and senior officer of the JLP. He spilled the beans. He told the country this: they will make Portmore into a parish, cut away from the rest of St. Catherine with the boundaries that they want. And after then, they will take control of St. Catherine municipality, create a safe seat for the JLP in Portmore that they will never lose. It is of note that the political boundaries stipulated by that member for achieving those goals are exactly what is provided in the Counties and Parish Boundary Act, which they rammed down through the Parliament. If this is not the most classical demonstration of gerrymandering, then the...
Member. Hold a moment, member. You have asked for a point of order. Hold a moment respectfully. Member, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, the member just attacked me. What I said on the platform. But the issue is, he's saying what I said on a political platform. Why don't you tell the country he broke his son on when she defended his mother from people?
Sit down.
His mic is off. A member.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
We're not interested in that. Who is interested in that?
Member from St. Catherine Southwest. Member from St. Catherine Southwest. Your mic was off, but I could hear you clearly. That's most inappropriate. That's not a point of order.
Are you, Madam Speaker? Are you asking me to withdraw it?
We don't want any more abuse there from you.
Are you asking me to withdraw it?
Yes, member.
No. If he can prove that I'm lying, then I'll withdraw it.
Sit down.
I'm speaking facts.
Sit down.
So I can't withdraw facts.
So you are admitting
Member
that
from
you
St.
were
Catherine.
wrong. You said
Member from St. Catherine Southwest. That is not a point of order. Member from St. Catherine Southwest. That's not a point of order.
Madam Speaker, in the normal...
Please allow the member from St. Catherine Southern to speak.
This is a waste of time asking for that.
Go ahead, member.
Waste of time. I will continue from where I left off. Madam, may I be permitted to speak in some silence?
Hello. Hello. Listen to me. You is a mama, man. Like that. It's helping your cause. It's helping your third term.
Madam Speaker.
The member from St. Catherine Southwest. The member from St. Catherine Southwest, please.
The member from St. Catherine Southwest. This is the last time you'll be spoken to, sir.
He's unhinged.
Member from St. Catherine Southern, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will continue where I left off. If this is not the most classical demonstration of gerrymandering, then the earth is not round, it is square. All the 15 parish adventure being justified on the basis that it was an election promise made by the JLP that is being kept. The chairman of the Joint Select Committee of Parliament on that matter of Portmore becoming a 15 parish, and the member of Parliament for in St. Catherine was reported in the media telling a gathering in Gregory Park recently that if they don't keep the promise to make Portmore a parish, they would be accused of lying to the people to get their votes. With this public statement in mind, the country is asking, what about these following promises made by no other than the Prime Minister himself from 2016? 1, legislation for term limit for Prime Minister within 100 days. Legislation for impeachment proceedings within 100 days. Legislation for fixed date of elections within 100 days. Job description for ministers. 5 in 4 economic growth. 70,000 NHT houses by 2025. Sleep with your windows and doors open. Livable wages. World-class health care. Improved educational outcomes. And the biggest unkept promise, prosperity for all. Madam Speaker, we have heard the very vociferous screams of warning by the Prime Minister about promises during this election period leading up during the next 5 months. In light of these listed and many unfulfilled promises that cannot be successfully challenged, and I emphasize, cannot be successfully challenged, is that member from South Central St. Catherine, former chairman of the Joint Select Committee on the Portmore becoming a 15 parish, the former Minister of Energy and Petrojam, will now say that the government can be accused of lying? Is this another case of cop mouth, kill cop? Madam Speaker, it is now universally accepted and acknowledged that gerrymandering is the manipulation of political boundaries to the advantage of a party in power is corruption. No spinning will change this fact. No denying will change this fact. That member from Southwest St. Catherine has confirmed publicly that what the intent of the government was. Consequently, nor any other member of the government. Consequently, any reasonable and logical person will conclude that the intent was corrupt. Anything corruptly conceived will only breed corrupt outcomes. Corruption erodes trust, weakens democracy, hampers economic development and further exacerbates inequality, poverty, social division, and a host of other desirable outcomes. Madam Speaker, this is the stain that is being foisted on the people of Portmore by a corrupt pursuit. This corruptly conceived parish hoax will most certainly result in a miscarriage. Shame on this government. Shame. This haste in the corrupt pursuit was being compounded by blatant disregard for the Constitution. This was recently confirmed by the court orders now in effect that block the government from bringing the act into force until it abides by certain specific requirements of our Constitution. For those who would take the time to familiarize themselves with the now public submissions before the court, they will be aware that the basis of the court order now preventing Portmore from being declared a parish is but one of the cited breaches of the Constitution by the Counties and Parishes Amendment Act of 2025. That act, better known as the Gerrymandering of Political Boundaries Act of 2025. That matter before the court is scheduled to be heard in full within the next 2 months. Thereafter, we will speak further about it and set out a civil, democratic pathway for making any changes to Jamaica's now existing 14 parish structure. This is relevant not only for us in Portmore and St. Catherine. All Jamaicans ought to have a voice in any structural changes to be made to the national 14 parish configuration in place for over 100 years. It cannot and ought not to be at the whim of any administration. Such a pathway, Madam Speaker, consultatively pursued, will for the first time seek to establish clear criteria to be fulfilled by a parish and how any subsequent changes will be made. No Nicodemus thing. In the meantime, Madam Speaker, we in Portmore, we will continue our mission to make Portmore a better place, as we have been doing for over the last 60 years. No gerrymandering around here. Madam Speaker, once again, I say thanks to the people of Portmore for their open support and endorsement for the efforts we are making to preserve and build their municipality in keeping with their own vision. We in the People's National Party will forever be indebted to them and the people of Jamaica. I thank you.
House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the Member of Parliament for St. Catherine Southern for his presentation and the passion within which he presented it. So, Madam Speaker, it is our intention today to continue. So, Madam Speaker, I now ask that the sectoral debate be suspended.
Thank you, House Leader. Members. Members, the question is that the sectoral debate be suspended. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is our intention today to continue and conclude the debate on the report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the bills shortly entitled the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Act 2023, the Offences Against a Person Amendment Act 2023, and the Child Care and Protection Amendment Act 2023, which was laid on the table of the House of Representatives on the 5th day of December 2023. House Leader, I ask you to invite the Minister to close the debate.
Not as yet, House Leader. I would first ask members in the House who have not yet spoken on this debate to do so. Oh, is that why you're jumping up?
Madam Speaker, there were a number of us on the side who wanted to address on this bill, or these bills, but we got no notice until today, and that is really unreasonable and unfair, Madam Speaker. So I'm going to ask if the House could indulge us and allow for us to prepare for next Tuesday's sitting, at which time we'll be in a position to make our submissions.
Leader of Opposition Business, this debate commenced January 16, 2024, at which time you asked for additional time to prepare and to be able to come to debate. Yes, you would need to be prepared to be able to come and to speak to. However, I will not make a ruling. I will defer to the Minister.
Madam Speaker, when we concluded sometime in the first quarter of last year, the last speaker on your side was the Leader of the Opposition. He brought some concerns about the penalty for children. I did not close then. I said, based on the concerns that you raised, give me some more time to discuss it with the Minister of Education, whose bill comes under which I am acting for the Minister of Education. Both Minister Williams and I started discussion on it. Then the ministers changed, so the time really dragged on. But this bill, Madam Speaker, is impatient of closing. Huh? Well, it has been going on forever. I mean,
members, please allow the Minister to speak. Minister, Minister, I am deferring to you. It is for you to determine if you will close the debate. If there are no members from the opposition side who are
ready
prepared
to speak today, if
who
they're
have
not ready
yet spoken.
Right.
So that would be the rule. You would have not yet spoken and would like to add to the debate.
Quite a number of persons spoke already before the Leader of the Opposition, and he was the last person on that side to speak. This was, and a lot of persons spoke about the penalty for children. And that is why I said I will not close that day, and unfortunately it took over a year now for us to just conclude. So I'd like to close, Madam Speaker, if that is okay. So unless a member on that side would like to speak,
who have
not spoken, and I think quite a number of you spoke. So, Madam Speaker, I would like to close.
You may proceed, Minister.
Madam Speaker, as intimated, these bills were placed on the table in February 2023. A joint select committee was put in place in April 2023. We had 11 sittings of the joint select committee, and a report was placed in this House in November of 2023. The debate on this bill started in February of 2024, and a number of persons on both sides spoke on this bill. And we said, I suspended the closing of the debate so that further decision could be taken in respect to the penalty for children. So, Madam Speaker, and I will deal with this today, what nuanced position we have dealt with children. I rise today, therefore, Madam Speaker, to move for the closing of the debates on the Offences Against a Person Amendment Bill, the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Bill, and the Child Care Protection Amendment Bill, which seek to appropriately treat with and increase the penalties for the offence of murder under Jamaican law. Madam Speaker, these bills represent a necessary and deliberate response to the levels of violent crime in our society, particularly those involved in the most heinous offence, murder. Madam Speaker, Jamaica continues to grapple with unacceptably high levels of homicide. These are not just statistics. They represent real lives lost, sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, taken in acts of cold violence that tear families and communities apart. While, Madam Speaker, the government continues to invest in crime prevention, intelligence-driven policing, and social intervention programs, it is also imperative that the justice system reflects the seriousness of the crimes that continue to undermine public order and confidence in the rule of law. Madam Speaker, these bills are the result of extensive consultation through the Joint Select Committee process convened from as far back as 2023. We received oral and written feedback from amongst more UNICEF, the Jamaican Bar Association, the Office of the Children's Advocate, the Office of the Public Defender, Jamaican Psychological Society, the Office of the DPP, the Faculty of Law, UWI, civil society stakeholders, and many members of the public. We want also to thank the members of the opposition who added their voices to the discourse on these bills and on the report that was tabled. Madam Speaker, I take this opportunity to refresh the House as to the proposed amendments that we started with and we are now coming out of the Joint Select Committee meetings. In respect of the Offence Against a Person Amendment Bill, the bill for non-capital increases the mandatory minimum sentence for imprisonment under Section 3(1)(b) from 15 years to 45 years. For capital murder, increases the mandatory minimum sentence to be served before being eligible for parole from 20 years to 50 years under Section 3(1)(c) subsection A, increases the mandatory minimum sentence to be served before being eligible for parole, where the sentence is imprisonment for life from 15 years to 40 years under Section 3(1)(c)(b). And finally, Madam Speaker, increases the mandatory minimum sentence to be served before being eligible for parole, where a sentence of term of imprisonment is given from 10 years to 35 years under 3(1)(c)(b)(2). Coming out of the Joint Select Committee, Madam Speaker, we have lowered the penalties related to non-capital murder. The mandatory minimum penalty proposed now is 30 years instead of 45 years. Where a term of years has been imposed, the period must be served before becoming eligible for parole is proposed 20 years instead of 35 years. As it pertains, Madam Speaker, to the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Bill, it seeks to amend Section 42F of the Criminal Justice Administration Act by increasing the term of years to be deemed as life imprisonment from 30 years to 50 years, where the offence committed is murder. The starting point for calculating the reduction in the sentence is usually life imprisonment, and the aim of this proposed amendment is to maintain an incentive scheme for defendants to plead guilty while ensuring that the reduced sentence is not inordinately low, having regard to the serious nature of the offence. Madam Speaker, murder is the most serious offence probably committed in the country, maybe outside of treason. And Madam Speaker, this Parliament has to send the clear and unmistakable message to potential killers that life is sacrosanct, sacred, and when taken, the offender must be prepared and must know that they're going to spend a long time in prison. There's no doubt, Madam Speaker, that we must let those who want to take life appreciate that if they do take life and they're found guilty in the court of law, that the court will sentence them to a significant sentence. So, Madam Speaker, when it is capital murder, which is the most egregious of murders, and also because it involves the killing of judicial officers, policemen, and multiple murders, where it creates havoc within the society. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, it is clear that the offender in capital murder has the malicious intent to destroy life, and oftentimes, Madam Speaker, using a gun. Madam Speaker, the minimum mandatory sentence for gun crimes has had a salutary effect on persons who carry guns across the country. It may well, Madam Speaker, be a significant contribution to the reduction in murders, in murders over the last couple of years. And Madam Speaker, there are far too many guns across the island, in every neighborhood, in every community. In fact, Madam Speaker, when you look at the murders being committed across Jamaica, 80% approximately of them are done with a gun. In other words, Madam Speaker, persons who commit murder, they're carrying around guns. If the police can catch them before they commit murder, the minimum mandatory sentence is 15 years. But when they commit murder, Madam Speaker, using the gun, they cannot expect that the minimum mandatory is 15 years, which is what it is now. And that is why, Madam Speaker, this bill, where they use it and they're found guilty of capital murder, then it's either death or life imprisonment. And if it is life imprisonment, it is with a minimum mandatory sentence of 50 years. So once they're convicted for murder, Madam Speaker, they can expect either to spend the rest of their life in prison, if they don't get the death sentence and pass away, or they get 50 years. And if they can last the 50 years, they will be very old when they leave the prison. They won't really, hopefully, be capable of any further criminal conduct. Madam Speaker, non-capital murder is also one in which the sentence can be life imprisonment depending on the nature of the crime and the fact that the offender might plead guilty. It is life imprisonment. And if it is life imprisonment or a fixed term, and that fixed term cannot be less than 30 years, but once convicted of non-capital murder, then the sentence, the mandatory minimum, is 20 years. 20 years imprisonment. Madam Speaker, when we met at the Joint Select Committee, and also in the debate, especially from the opposition side, the leader of the opposition, the real concern in relation to the Child Care and Protection Bill was the welfare and interests of the offender. And Madam Speaker, we are looking at children or juveniles between 14 and 17. And there's no doubt that we need to look at their interests and what will happen to them. But, Madam Speaker, we must never, ever forget that these are offenders who have taken lives. And there's no one, Madam Speaker, in the court or in the society who is speaking for the victim who has passed away or for the families of that victim. And, Madam Speaker, I listened at the Joint Select Committee, UNICEF, Jamaicans for Justice, most of the presenters. Their main concern, Madam Speaker, is how do you rehabilitate the young person, 14 to 17, and why should you keep them in prison for long? And if you keep them in prison for long, will they be rehabilitated? And also, is there rehabilitation in the prison? No time, Madam Speaker, very few times, if ever, did we hear any concern for the victim who has been mowed down, gunned down, and whose lives, Madam Speaker, has been taken by this offender who is to be sentenced. And so, Madam Speaker, as a society, we do not pay enough attention to victims of crimes. And it is time, Madam Speaker, that we start looking at how do we not only protect victims of crimes, but families who suffer the frustration, who suffer the despair of losing a loved one. And Madam Speaker, even when the offender is a juvenile, we must, as a parliament, reflect a punishment that takes into consideration the passion, the disappointment, the frustration, and the despair of the families of these victims. So, Madam Speaker, the sentence, even when the child is between 14 and 17, must reflect that there is a victim whose life has been taken and whose families have lost a loved one. And in those circumstances, Madam Speaker, there's no doubt that in the most egregious of these crimes, that a long term of imprisonment should be imposed, and also that there should be a mandatory minimum for the most egregious of these murders. It wouldn't be correct, Madam Speaker, for this Parliament dealing with young offenders, 14 to 17, that the victims, family, who go to court or who hears of the sentence of the offender, say, but wait, he just got a pat on his wrist. As far as we are concerned, Madam Speaker, this Parliament must reflect the intolerance, the repugnance, and the feeling that the victim and the families of the victim possess when they have lost a loved one. And that sentence, Madam Speaker, must be reflected in the sentence that we guide the courts with when an offender has been found guilty of capital or non-capital murder. Madam Speaker, these sentences must send a message, a strong message, to potential offenders out there, that we want the murder rate to decrease even more than it is doing now. Madam Speaker, the Minister of National Security in his presentations earlier pointed out that the murder rate is declining, but it is not declining, Madam Speaker, fast enough. We need to get below 40 per month. The likelihood is that February we got 47. Likelihood April it could be in the 40s. But Madam Speaker, I hope that when these penalties are enacted and the message is sent across Jamaica from Negril to Moran Point, that the potential killers will hold strain, will put away their guns, put away their knives, and think before they act, because we want the murders to go down below 40, maybe below 30. We want less victims. We want potential victims to have their lives to live. And therefore, Madam Speaker, the sentence of the court must reflect how the society feels and how this Parliament is sending to the court and to the Jamaican society that we believe that the victims must be protected. And where their lives are taken, the sentence must reflect the feeling that the rest of society have for the behavior of the offender. So, Madam Speaker, even though we had put mandatory minimum for all offences for murder, we have, in discussion with the Minister of Education, whose bill which bill the Child Care and Protection Amendment Bill comes under, the Ministry of Education, and having had a long discussion not only with the Minister Williams, but in recent times with Minister Dixon, we have agreed, and we are nuanced what was proposed by us in the original bill and what was also reflected by the Joint Select Committee, that in respect of capital murder, Madam Speaker, where the offender clearly has shown not only malicious intent, but shown a wickedness, that he should spend at least 15 years in custody. And so the sentence, Madam Speaker, for capital murder should be life imprisonment, or if a determinate sentence is considered appropriate by the judge, 30 years, but in either cases, the offender must serve 15 years. This is reduced from 20 years that we had agreed at the Joint Select Committee, and I ask the Parliament to approve the reduction of minimum mandatory from 20 to 15 years. And in the case of non-capital murder, Madam Speaker, it can either be life imprisonment, but we are saying because it's a young offender and the circumstances are so varied, not the wicked, egregious, malicious behavior of the offender, but a young offender that the court for non-capital murder can impose a determinate sentence to be decided by the judge. And the judge at the same time can also say what period of time must be served before that offender can be released. In other words, we leave it to the court in the respect of young offenders 14 to 17, based on the proposal not only from the opposition members, but from persons who appeared before the Joint Select Committee, and after consultation with the Minister of Education, Minister Dana Dixon, who consulted widely, for non-capital murder, the judge can impose a determinate sentence and also a minimum period that the offender should serve if the court thinks it necessary. So, Madam Speaker, what this Minister of Justice has done is to balance between the behavior of the offender and the respect we must give to the victim of crime and the families who have lost their loved ones. And so we hope that this sentence, Madam Speaker, reflects appropriately the balance, not only the punishment of the offender, but also repose in the families of the victim how this Parliament feels. And I think, Madam Speaker, while I know that this government is committed to justice, not vengeance, but we must also recognize that the punishment for murder must serve as a clear and unequivocal signal that the sanctity of life is paramount, and those who take it unlawfully must face serious consequences. At the same time, Madam Speaker, the provisions of the bill are carefully designed to be proportionate, constitutional, and respectful of the rights of all persons, including the right to due process and the possibility of rehabilitation in cases where it is genuinely warranted. So, Madam Speaker, in closing, every Jamaican has a right to feel safe in their home, in their community, and in their country. If we are to uphold that right, we must ensure that our laws are firm, fair, and responsive to the challenges we face. These bills, Madam Speaker, are not the sole answer to the crime problem, but they are a necessary part of the solution, a signal that the state takes seriously its duty to protect life and uphold justice. I therefore, Madam Speaker, commend these bills to this Honourable House and to the nuance within the report, and ask for full support of the members as we continue the urgent work of restoring peace, justice, and order to our beloved nation. So, Madam Speaker, I'm asking, Madam Speaker, that the report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report the bills shortly entitled the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Act 2023, the Offences Against a Person Amendment Act 2023, and the Child Care and Protection Amendment Act 2023, which was laid on the table of the House on the 5th day of December 2023, be adopted with the modification as I presented today. So, Madam Speaker, I ask that this be done at this time.
Thank you. The question is that the report of the Joint Select Committee appointed to consider and report on the bill shortly entitled the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Act 2023, the Offences Against the Person Amendment Act 2023, and the Child Care and Protection Act 2023, which was laid on the table of the House on the 5th day of December 2023, be adopted. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Ayes have it. The House will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole House of Representatives to consider each bill clause by clause. Marshall?
Madam Speaker, the amendments were circulated for all three bills. So if,
Duly noted.
unless
They
there
were
are
received.
concerns with the amendments, we could just proceed. So in relation, Madam Speaker, the Criminal Justice Administration Act 2023, I put clause 1.
So I'll ask Minister if you would like to put clauses 1 through 3.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Could you please proceed?
Members, I put clauses 1 through 3. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
I think there's one change. There's one change,
Minister,
sir.
yes, because there are amendments, I think
One,
I would
you're
want to
right.
take them one clause at a time,
Right.
just to make sure, because these are amended clauses, and these would be the amendments circulated. So unless you're making a change
Right, I'm sorry, Madam
to
Speaker.
the amendment circulated.
Totally my fault. Clause 1, we should change 2023 to 2025. In clause 1, the Criminal Justice Administration Act, we should not only
Delete
change,
the numbers 2023 and replace with 2025.
and we are going to delete clause 2 and renumber clause 3 to clause 2. And Madam Speaker, the words of enactment to put in the Parliament of Jamaica instead of the King's Most Excellent Majesty in the enactment clause.
And you're deleting the delete the word the King's Most Excellent Majesty and substitute therefore the words the Parliament of Jamaica.
Right, Madam Speaker. And then, Madam Speaker, in the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons, we delete the second paragraph and substitute therefore the following, quote, a decision has therefore been taken to amend the Criminal Justice Administration Act in Section 42F to provide that where the offense is murder, a term of life imprisonment shall be deemed to be a term of 50 years for the purposes of calculating a reduction of sentence pursuant to Part 1A of the Act upon a plea of guilty by the defendant. That is, I ask that be put, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
So the amendments can now be put, Madam Speaker.
So thank you, Minister. So Minister has read the documented amendments that have been circulated. So I now put clause 1 as amended. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 2. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 3. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. And I put the title and enacting clause. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. That is for the Criminal Justice Administration Amendment Act, which will now be Act dated 2025. Members, the question is that Members, the question is that I do report the bill as having passed committee stage with 3 amendments, that is amendments to clauses 1, 2, and the enactment clause. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. We may now move to the Offences Against Persons Amendment Act. Minister?
Madam Speaker, clause 1, we changed 2023 to 2025.
Same, as circulated as well.
And in clause 2, we put in paragraph A, we delete the word 45 and substitute therefore the word 30. And in paragraph D, delete the word 35 and substitute therefore the word 20. And Madam Speaker, we also change the title and enacting clause from the King's Most Excellent Majesty and substitute therefore the words the Parliament of Jamaica.
Thanks, Minister. I put clause 1 as amended. Those in favor? I put clause 2 as amended. Those in favor? I now put the title and enacting clause as amended. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Members, I do now report the bill as having passed committee stage with 3 amendments. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Last of the 3, the Child Care and Protection Amendment Act.
Madam Speaker, in clause 1 again, we also put numerals 2023 and substitute 2025. And in the enactment clause, we change the King's Most Excellent Majesty and substitute the Parliament of Jamaica. Then, Madam Speaker, clause 2, we are removing clause 2 and repeal and replacement of section 78 of the Principal Act with what is before the Parliament. I am going to indicate, Madam Speaker, that it has been laid and we consider it as having been read. So clause 2, we substitute what is before the House and tabled.
Appropriate, Minister. So, in keeping with the direction of the Minister, I put clause 1 as amended. Those in favor?
Aye.
I put clause 2 as amended and also in the circulation.
Right.
A little bit more detail. Those in favor?
Aye.
And I also put the title and enacting clause as amended. Those in favor?
Aye. Madam Speaker, may I also, in the memorandum of objects and reasons, to delete the words, quote, specify that the period that a child who is sentenced to imprisonment for life for the offense of murder shall serve before being eligible for parole shall not be less than 20 years, and substitute, therefore, the words to allow for a tiered approach that allows the court a wider choice of sentencing options, and in certain cases to specify the period of imprisonment that must be served before eligibility for parole arises. So that, Madam Speaker, plus it was under the signature of Minister Fable Williams, so we change it to Minister Dana Morris-Dixon.
That is duly noted, Minister. The notations for the memorandum are not amendments to the bill.
It's just
are just noted,
for it to be noted, right.
for record. So I do put to the members, as indicated, 3 amendments. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Members for all 3 bills?
You did one and the first and second one. What's that? I don't chat as much as you. I can put you on, again, let Fitz deal with you, you know.
Members, we are heading out of committee stage. I do report 1, the Criminal Justice Administration Act 2025 as having passed committee stage with 3 amendments. I do report the Offences Against the Persons Amendment Act 2025 as having passed committee stage with 3 amendments. And I do report the Child Care Protection Amendment Act 2025 as having passed committee stage with 3 amendments. Minister?
Madam Speaker, I now ask that each bill be read a third time.
Clerk? The question is that the bill be read a third time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. Go ahead. Each bill be read a third time. Clerk?
An act to amend the Criminal Justice Administration Act read a third time and passed. An act to amend the Offences Against the Person Act read for a third time and passed. And an act to amend the Child Care and Protection Act read for a third time and passed.
Thank you very much. House Leader, we are going to take a little step back.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I ask for the recommittal of announcement, recommittal of notices of motions given. Announcement. So, Madam Speaker, I ask for the recommittal of announcements.
Thank you. So, Minister of Finance, at announcements, we are dealing with procurement first. Clerk?
I wish to further lay on the table of the House the Public Procurement Competition Thresholds Order 2025 resolution.
House Leader, notice of motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next sitting of the House, I will move whereas Section 22B, subsection 1 of the Public Procurement Act, hereinafter referred to as the Act, provides that the relevant competition threshold shall determine the application of...
House Leader, just for good order. Members, I'm having recommitted announcements which you voted on, recommittal of notices of motions given orally, and we will also recommit public business at the same time. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. So that it allows us to continue the flow without recommitting any element of the agenda as we proceed. Minister of Finance, you may proceed on the notices of motions given orally.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to give notice that as the next meeting of the House, I will move, whereas Section 22B1 of the Public Procurement Act, herein referred to as the Act, provides that the relevant competition threshold shall determine the application of any A, level of competition for public procurement, and B, method of procurement for restricted competition. And whereas Section 22B3 of the Act provides that for the purposes of Section 22B1, the Minister may, by order, subject to affirmative resolution, prescribe the value limits for the relevant competition thresholds for the procurement of goods, works, or services under the Act. And whereas on the 29th day of April 2025, the Minister made the Public Procurement Competition Thresholds Order 2025. Now, therefore, be it resolved by this Honorable House as follows. This resolution may be cited as the Public Procurement Competition Thresholds Order 2025 resolution. The Public Procurement Competition Thresholds Order 2025 is hereby affirmed. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Public business. We're going to do a recommittal again just for ease of flow and understanding of the process. So, House Leader, we're at public business. You will continue, Minister, in the public procurement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Thank you, Minister. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it, Minister.
Madam Speaker, as this Honourable House is aware, the Public Procurement Act, the Act which was passed in 2015 and amended in 2018, was again amended in March 2025. Madam Speaker, the amendments were necessary in order to correct conceptual or fundamental deficiencies, to address ambiguities in the legislation, to establish a new competition threshold, increase contract approval limits, and to ensure greater alignment between the Act and the regulations and the strategic objectives of the government. The competition threshold allows a procuring entity to restrict competition in the manner that best accommodates the circumstances of the procurement, and in particular provides for restriction of competition on the basis of the estimated contract price. The competition threshold also recognizes the important distinctions between procurement methods and the levels of competition to which they may be deployed. This coherent and proportionate approach to method selection is expected to increase overall efficiency in public procurement. It is to be noted, Madam Speaker, that in the previous regime, a similar approach to thresholds was taken. However, that regime did not provide a full range of available methods at different levels of competition. The competition threshold will now rationalize and increase some of those previous values. Section 22B3 of the Public Procurement Act, as amended, provides that the minister may, by order, prescribe threshold values to be applied to the newly created competition threshold. Madam Speaker, with the affirmation of these orders, I intend to operationalize this provision. I will now proceed to look at each paragraph of the order. Madam Speaker, the order begins by addressing preliminary issues such as the enabling powers in the Public Procurement Act, which establishes my authority to make this order. Paragraph 1 sets out the name of the order. Paragraph 2 provides for the application of the value limits in the first column of the schedule to the level of competition specified in the second column of the schedule and the method specified in the third column of the schedule. You will see, Madam Speaker, that for example, for the procurement of contracts for works, a procuring entity would be able to invite an offer from a single supplier if the estimated contract price does not exceed 5 million Jamaican dollars. Similarly, for the procurement of goods and services, the procuring entity would be able to invite an offer from a single supplier if the estimated contract price does not exceed 3 million Jamaican dollars. Indeed, Madam Speaker, if the market conditions and time allow, even at these levels, the procuring entity may request quotes from multiple suppliers. Madam Speaker, given this discretion to procuring entities is an important step in ensuring a system that delivers for the people of Jamaica. In the levels above, Madam Speaker, as the contract value increases, procuring entities are now obligated to increase competition as a means of increasing value for money. This is consistent with existing practice and with international practice. With these orders, Madam Speaker, the government intends to continue to fulfill its commitment to maximize economy and efficiency in public procurement, promote economic development through public procurement, obtain value through public procurement, foster transparency, and encourage participation in public procurement. Madam Speaker, I now invite members of this honorable House to support the affirmation of these orders. Thank you.
Member from St. Andrew Southeastern would like to contribute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Given the challenges that we have had with procurement in the country, I don't have any objection to what is being proposed, but I have some questions in terms of definitions, and I'm seeking clarity on it. So, Minister, could you tell me the distinction between open international competition and open national? So, for example, if you have a foreign company that establishes a company in Jamaica, a subsidiary here, is that company considered national, the one that is established here, or is that international? And I just seeking clarity on that, because I'm conscious. Huh? Well, I don't have the act. I'm just asking the question. You can answer. You can just answer. I don't have the act there. Secondly, if you could just, from a definition perspective, could you indicate the request for proposal with consecutive negotiations versus request for proposal without negotiation, the distinction between those? So what is considered international versus national, and is that defined, because I don't have the act, is it defined by where the company is registered or the nature of the ownership of the company? Is it based on the fact that it is a Jamaican-based company or an international one with ownership from persons who are non-Jamaican? So I'm just seeking clarity on that.
Minister?
All right, so member, a company established here in Jamaica will be considered a national company. request for proposal with consecutive negotiations is done when the procuring entity must negotiate commercial and technical terms of a contract.
Minister, would you be so kind, Madam Minister, to conclude?
Madam Speaker, I now ask that the motion be approved.
Thank you. Members, the question is that the motion be approved, affirmed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader, still at public business, members.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So, as we're still on the public business, Madam Speaker, this Honorable House would have taken note that on the 25th day of March 2025, the Minister of Finance and the Public Service gave notice of second reading of the bill entitled An Act to Make Provision for the Designation of Projects as Approved Large-Scale Projects or Economic Activities as Approved Pioneer Industries to provide tax relief in relation to projects and activities so designated, to operationalize the tax incentives for large-scale projects and pioneer industries, to establish an application and management committee as part of the process of approving participants of large-scale projects and pioneer industries, to repeal and replace income tax relief, Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Act 2013, and to provide for connected matters. Madam Speaker, I now seek the leave of the House to withdraw the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, House Leader. Is it the wish of the House that the bill be withdrawn? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I now ask for the recommittal of the items, notices of motions given orally, and presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained.
The question is that the items, notices of motions given orally, and presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained be recommitted. Those in favor? Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Notices of motions given orally. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move to introduce and have read a first time a bill shortly entitled the Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Tax Relief Act 2025.
Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I now move to introduce and have read a first time a bill shortly entitled the Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industry Tax Relief Act 2025.
Clerk, question is that the bill be read a first time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Clerk.
The Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Tax Relief Act 2025 read a first time.
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of second reading of the bill. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take second reading of the bill and to take it through all its concluding stages.
Public business.
Madam Speaker, this Honourable House is reminded that the Income Tax Relief Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Act, which was enacted in December 2013, took effect on January 1, 2014, and coincided with the repeal of a number of legacy incentive legislation that granted sector-specific tax incentives. Madam Speaker, the Income Tax Relief, Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Act accordingly signified a new paradigm shift in the treatment of fiscal incentives. The preference was for a more fiscally responsible approach to tax expenditure and the use of targeted tax credits rather than blanket tax holidays. The incentives provided under the Act would only be available to such projects that are considered to make a substantial contribution to Jamaica's economic growth and national development and are aligned with the strategic priorities of the government of Jamaica. The Act was therefore designed to encourage projects with large capital investments and to stimulate job creation and growth within the economy. Note that the capital investment was not defined. Notwithstanding that, the Income Tax Relief, Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Act took effect on January 1, 2014. It was inoperative, partially due to a lack of promulgated regulations. Madam Speaker, based on the interest of stakeholders to utilize the bill to invest in the economy, steps have been taken to update the Act by way of amendments, as well promulgate the regulations. During the process of these amendments, it was noted that based on the significant number of amendments made to most of the provisions in the legislation, it was determined that rather than an amended bill, it would be proper for there to be a repeal and replacement of the entire legislation. This would facilitate ease of reading and administration, ensuring a more cohesive act. Madam Speaker, the new act, entitled the Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Tax Relief Act 2025, is consequently designed to provide a clear administrative regime for entities who meet the criteria to qualify for a suite of tax incentives determined based on the size and scope of the entity proposing the large investment. The Act also facilitates the creation of an application and management committee to review applications to ensure that the entities who meet the criteria are suitable based on the projected plans for economic growth and development of Jamaica. Importantly, Madam Speaker, the Act maintains the provisions that promote transparency and accountability by way of parliamentary scrutiny, both in granting of incentives, which requires the making of an order that is subject to affirmative resolution, and the annual reporting requirements to Parliament in relation to orders promulgated under the Act, certificates of approval granted in each calendar year, and the aggregate tax expenditure incurred in respect of such orders and certificates. Madam Speaker, the proposed amendments to the Act as well as the proposed regulations, will therefore serve to reinforce the accountability requirements in the Act by introducing a rules-based approach to the approval of applications and a requirement for the Minister to consult with the Application and Management Committee prior to making his or her determination. Simply put, Madam Speaker, this piece of legislation is aimed at facilitating ease, predictability, and transparency in the granting of incentives to entities seeking to invest significantly in Jamaica. Madam Speaker, the bill and regulations have been designed so as to create a coherent and self-contained legislative framework for the granting of fiscal incentives in respect of large-scale projects qualifying for treatment under the Act. Amongst other things, the bill and regulations therefore contemplates the following: amendment of the title of the Act to reflect its expanded scope, inclusion of an Application and Management Committee as part of the approval process, alteration of the definition of approved participant to require incorporation under the Companies Act to ensure that by definition the said participant is at all times fully subject to Jamaican laws. Insertion of a definition for capital investment to clarify what expenditure qualifies as capital investment for the purpose of qualifying under the Act. A determination as to the capital investment required to be declared an approved participant in the large-scale project at $1 billion United States dollars. Amendment to the existing definition of specified incentive to clarify the application of the incentive. Amendments to the existing Section 3 to allow the Minister a wider power to grant fiscal incentives. Insertion of a provision to restrict the period for the granting of incentives under the Act to a period not exceeding 15 years, and the ability to carry forward yearly allotment of incentives. Amendment of existing Section 4B so that before the Minister designates a project as an approved large-scale project, the Minister has to be satisfied that there is evidence that both capital investment and job creation are not less than the prescribed amounts. Insertion of provision in relation to the application procedure, including an amendment to introduce an application and management committee as part of the application process, and requirements for applicants and their associates to be fit and proper persons. The insertion of new provisions for the regulation and monitoring of the approved applicant after the application has been approved, including prescribing certain reporting requirements in respect of change in control of ownership and actions the Minister may take for breaches under the Act, and amendment of the existing Section 12.3 to increase the fine for breach of the regulations to be promulgated under the Act to $3 million Jamaican dollars. Madam Speaker, I will now go through the clauses of the bill. Clause 1, short title and commencement. It establishes the formal title of the Act and provides flexibility for the Minister to determine the commencement date via Gazette notice. Clause 2, interpretation, provides the key definitions governing interpretation of terms under the Act, ensuring clarity, certainty, and consistency in the application. Clause 3, application for designation as approved large-scale project, etc., establishes the process and criteria for seeking designation as a large-scale project, ensuring projects align with national economic priorities and that applicants are fit and proper. Clause 4, application for designation as approved pioneer industry, etc., provides a structured mechanism for designating emerging economic activities as pioneer industries, fostering innovation and strategic economic transformation. Clause 5, ministerial order designating project or activity or granting incentives. This clause empowers the minister to designate projects or industries and prescribe corresponding fiscal incentives under strict parliamentary oversight to ensure transparency and responsible fiscal policy. Clause 6, declaration of approved participant, creates a structured and rigorous certification process for companies seeking approved participant status, safeguarding the integrity of the incentive regime. Clause 7, establishment and functions of large-scale projects and pioneer industries, application and management committee. It establishes a technical independent body to oversee applications, monitor compliance, and assist the minister ensuring transparency, accountability, and integrity in incentive approvals. Clause 8 speaks to conditional approval, provides flexibility for preliminary approval subject to regulatory compliance, balancing investment facilitation with environmental and regulatory safeguards. Clause 9, restrictions on ministers' power to grant certificates and make orders and tax expenditure factors. This clause imposes a fiscal ceiling on the granting of tax incentives to maintain control over the national budget and ensure sustainable public finances. Clause 10, restrictions on engaging in other business activities. This clause ensures that approved participants remain focused on the designated activities for which incentives were granted, preventing misuse or diversion. This provision allows the administrators to be able to clearly delineate the activities of enterprises which should receive the benefit versus the rest of their business activities. Clause 11, major change and minor change to approved participant. This clause maintains regulatory oversight over significant structural and operational changes in approved participants to protect the integrity of the tax incentive regime. Clause 12, inspection, audit, examination of approved participant. This establishes monitoring and enforcement powers to ensure compliance with the Act and the terms of approvals granted. Clause 13, amendment of certificate of approval. This clause provides a mechanism for approved participants to amend their certificate where necessary, ensuring regulatory flexibility while maintaining oversight. Clause 14, cancellation of certificate of approval. This establishes a fair process for cancelling certificates where non-compliance or fraud occurs, preserving the integrity of the incentive system. Clause 15, records and accounts to be kept by approved participant. This mandates strict record keeping and auditing standards for approved participants to ensure transparency, financial accountability, and regulatory compliance. Clause 16, obligation to secrecy, safeguards sensitive information obtained during the administration of the Act, ensuring protection of confidential business and governmental data. Clause 17, report to Parliament on tax expenditure. This ensures legislative oversight by mandating transparency and reporting of tax expenditures resulting from incentives granted under the Act. Clause 18, publication in Gazette, provides for official public notification and transparency regarding the issuance, amendment, or cancellation of approvals under the Act. Clause 19, offences, establishes strong financial penalties for abuse or misuse of specified incentives, deterring fraudulent or non-compliant behavior. Clause 20, regulations. This empowers the minister to create detailed regulations to operationalize the Act, ensuring flexibility to address administrative, procedural, and enforcement needs. Clause 21, power of minister to amend monetary penalties and schedule. This provides flexibility for the minister to update monetary penalties and the schedule without requiring a full legislative amendment, allowing responsiveness to changing circumstances. Clause 22, repeal of income tax relief, large-scale projects and pioneering industries Act 2013, and transitional provisions. This clause repeals the prior act while preserving existing rights, orders, and designations, ensuring legal continuity and a smooth legislative transition. Clause 23 is a savings clause. It protects ongoing applications, proceedings, and rights from being disrupted by the legislative change. Clause 24, Amendment of General Consumption Tax Act, ensures that approved participants under this act are provisionally registered for GCT purposes, facilitating compliance with tax obligations from the outset. And in the schedule, there is the constitution and the procedure of the application and the management committee. And this schedule establishes the structure, governance, and operational procedure for the application and management committee, ensuring transparent, accountable decision-making. Madam Speaker, the regulations have been crafted in such a manner to clearly set out the requirements for approval, as well as to streamline the application process. Accordingly, the proposed regulations set out the criteria for approval as a large-scale project, the application process, details in relation to the powers and procedures of the Application and Management Committee, and other matters to be prescribed for the purposes of giving effect to the provision of the Act. Madam Speaker, the regulations also include the relevant forms to be utilized to apply for the benefit, the necessary documents to be provided as part of the process. The regulations also provide for the fees to be charged for each administrative function in the Act and the necessary reports to be provided annually by applicants who are successful in the application process. Madam Speaker, I'll now go through the regulations. Regulation 1, citation, provides administrative, procedural, compliance, or transitional provisions under the regulations. Regulation number 2, application for certificate of approval, Form 1, schedule, provides for the application process and documentary requirements for an application to become an approved participant under Section 6 of the Principal Act. Regulation 3, an application for designation as approved large-scale project, Form 3, provides for the application process and documentary requirements for the designation of a project as a large-scale project under the Principal Act. Also provides administrative, procedural, compliance, or transitional provisions under the regulation. Regulation 4, notification of grant or refusal of certificate of approval after conditional approval. This provides timelines, 120 days for the notification of a grant or refusal of a certificate of approval. Regulation number 5, fees, prescribes the relevant fees for major change, amendment of the certificate of approval, additional fees for additional investigation and/or review. Regulation 6, breach of condition or other obligation. Provisions provide the penalty for breach of conditions or any obligation under the regulation. Regulation 7, the reporting requirements, provides for the reporting requirements of approved participants under the Act. And finally, number 8, transitional, provides that any large-scale project already approved by the government will not be obligated to pay the application fees imposed by the regulation. Madam Speaker, in closing, I will close the debate, not close, I will end here and ask that the debate be suspended. At that time, I will also then invite members of this Honourable House to support the passage of the Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Tax Relief Act 2025 and the Large-Scale Projects Tax Relief Application Regulations 2025.
House Leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I now move that the debate on the Large-Scale Projects and Pioneer Industries Tax Relief Act 2025 be suspended.
The question is that the debate be suspended. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was a productive day. I ask that this sitting of the House be adjourned until May 6, 2025, when we will resume the sectoral debate, and presentations will be made by Honorable Marlene Malahoo Fort, Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and Member of Parliament for St. James West Central. Presentation will also be made by Mr. Anthony Hilton, Member of Parliament for St. Andrew Western. So, Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, House Leader. Members, the question is that the House do now adjourn. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. This Honourable House now stands adjourned.
Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, barrels, buckets and tanks. If this cannot be done, pour cooking oil on the water surface. Punch holes in all tins, plastics and beverage boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover all tires or fill with dirt to prevent water collection. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs. Use mosquito repellents to protect yourself from mosquito bites. Dispose of garbage properly by placing in plastic bags and securing properly to prevent water collection.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Aspiring gunman, badman, young dance, liquor shotters, the 14, the 15, the 16-year-olds, you still have time to change your future and enjoy your life. No lock, no gun for no guy. And no bother hang with no crowd that is always getting into trouble. Think about your family, your father, your mother, your granny. Some of you good and all have son or daughter. It's not worth it, my youth. Choose freedom.